This guy, Lark Davis on Twitter, 736,000 followers. That's definitely a heavy hitter. That's in the Wales territory. He tweeted out, "Bitcoin is the future of money," according to South Park, with this clip. And the funny thing was that then I found this clip because then somebody was kind of replying to it, being like, "Haha, look at this idiot. He thinks South Park thinks that Bitcoin is the future of money." And I guess we're gonna hear this clip and then and then take a side. Is this pro or anti Bitcoin? The endless sort of debate, which reoccurs in a lot of Bitcoin history, funnily enough, where people who are pro Bitcoin see the same thing as people who are anti Bitcoin, and they both take it as confirmation that they're right. It seems they can't, neither side is sort of willing to take an L and say, okay, that one didn't work out for us. Instead, it's like, no, this is more evidence I'm right. Maybe that's just life. Everybody likes to confirm their sort of echo chamber. Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. Today is Sunday, the 5th of December, 2021. This is episode number 34, Coin Commerce Competition, featuring Joël Valenzuela. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jed is producing the show. Welcome to the show, Joel. I guess to give you a bit of an intro, you're a digital cash enjoyer and a cryptocurrency advocate, and I guess of living bankless or unbanked, however you prefer to say it, for several years. In fact, probably longer than almost anyone in the world. Really, whoever had a bank in the first place, to be honest. A few billion people beat you there, but that was by lack of a bank, to start with. So I guess everything comes full circle. But welcome to the show, and introduce yourself. How did you get into crypto?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys, and welcome everyone in the interwebs. Hi. So I was, this was a subject you wanted to touch on, but at some point in about mid 2013, I moved to New Hampshire for something called the Free State Project, which is basically just like, everyone's doing these like crypto cities everywhere. Like, oh, Miami, everyone moved to Miami. Oh, El Zonte and El Salvador. Let's do this. Everyone's doing this kind of stuff. Back before it was cool, me and a whole bunch of people moved to New Hampshire to live freer. And on my way over there, I met with some friend in Chicago, and we had a pizza, and he wanted to pay me back for his part of the pizza in this thing called Bitcoin. And so I got some Bitcoin, and then I had like a Facebook reminder of like a memory about within a couple months after that, I was like spending Bitcoin at retail locations in New Hampshire. So like November of 2013, which is before almost anyone else went to like a brick and mortar shop and spent crypto anywhere in the world, probably. And pretty much I just was using cryptocurrency in daily life around here because like once you use it a couple times, I was already an advocate of sound money and things like that, kind of like in the vein of Peter Schiff, who's now become a little bit more adversarial, but that's a different story. And once it just clicked that this is like gold that you can actually use as, a payment app type thing, that kind of blew my mind a little bit. And there you go. And it wasn't until 2015 I was getting more and more interested in the tech, interested in the possibilities, all that kind of stuff. And at some point, I just decided, what else am I doing in my life? Like, I should probably just dive headfirst in this. So I just said, you know what? As of now, I will not be paid in fiat anymore. I'll just take whatever will give me Bitcoin. I'll take that. And so that was like the end, like the November, December of 2015. And so, yeah, that was the last time I got paid in fiat. So pretty soon after that, I got a job at Cointelegraph writing for them. They were paying in Bitcoin, which is great. And that continued on until like about spring of the next year. I had some issue with my bank, and because of that, there was some fraud type thing, and because of that, they were going to close the account. We have to close your account, and we'll reopen you a new one. I just said, yeah, do that, just don't reopen it. And so then I just like walked away from banks, was living entirely unbanked off of Bitcoin for a few more months until, you know, as you know, you can probably enter like Roger Ver voice. The fees were too high, and the blocks began to fill up, and then it was just not viable to live off of Bitcoin anymore. And so then I looked down the list of CoinMarketCap coins of what's the next best thing I could use, and Litecoin was abandoned at the time. Ethereum wasn't really being used for money, and I'm really glad I didn't switch to that the way it is today. And the only thing out there I could use was Dash. And so since late 2016, that's been my primary money. That was like a year before Bitcoin Cash existed, before the fork. And then since then, in like recent years, I've used some Bitcoin Cash for some other things, for some things I can't use Dash for example, and some other things. But mostly I've just been, living on crypto. I have a podcast channel, and I do some other work for a few other things. But yeah, basically, I've been the crypto guy around here for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you say about, Peter Schiff. I mean, he's a bit of a semi-recurring theme, on this show, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously in the crypto scene generally. I think two super important points about him recently, especially, is number one is it's so bizarre that he just hasn't got that, like, we're actually doing it, the whole, it's great that he says gold, 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 but he's been saying that for, decades longer than crypto has existed. And yet there's, hundreds of thousands or millions of people or whatever in the world right now who are actually using crypto as money and have got partially or fully, in your case, out of the fiat system. And that's what it's supposed to be all about. And it's so bizarre that he can't embrace it, just like, it's actually working. This is it. It's happening. He's so hung up on it's not happening the way I imagined it or the way I would prefer it to be done. Even though he could switch sides at any time. He could be out himself out of the fiat system. But
I think he's running on a first impression still. Like the first impression any smart person has when they hear about this like digital money stuff is skepticism, right? You should be. The very first thing is like, this sounds like a bunch of nonsense. And then you look into it, and over time you figure it out. And I kind of feel like he didn't continue trying to figure it out. But to be honest, today I value his input on crypto because I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he has some very good points about like, he was like roasting Nayib Bukele over like wasting taxpayer money on like buying the dip all the time and stuff like that. And as the old saying goes, like if the Sahara Desert was put under government management, they'd have a shortage of sand within a year. And it's kind of the same type of thing. I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe this is just me being really, a little bit pessimistic, but I can imagine that El Salvador may lose money on Bitcoin, right? They might find a way to like, it's just just buy too many dips on the way down, and then just default on things, lose keys. I don't know. It's the government after all, right? So that's also a lot of Peter Schiff's objections to crypto seem to be directed at Bitcoin BTC specifically. And a lot of those are kind of correct. I mean, he misses some ways that Bitcoin still has utility today, but he's kind of right that it's more of it has a little bit of a pyramid scheme element to it of, you want the money to go up. And the only reason the value is going to go up is if more people buy. And if they're buying just because it's going to hold its value and go up, then they need another sucker coming in. And like, there's a few really good points he makes about it. Just, he misses like that this is one of the most important like moves forward for humanity in like hundreds of years. Like, this is huge. And he like, I think he's just looking at that big, orange B logo and like the stupid people on Twitter saying buy the dick hodl Lambo and all this kind of stuff, that he kind of misses the rest of the picture.
He's been there for a long time, though. I mean, he did get, he was introduced to it back when it was more of a currency. And the funny thing, I think, is that he still, he just doesn't engage with it really, because now he's sort of becoming this almost, contrarian celebrity. Like I saw he was hanging out with Pompliano and what's his name, Peter McCormick the other day and stuff. So he's kind of starting to relish that even more. So I guess that's going to, reinforce his sort of anti-brand status. But even he, like his Twitter feed is becoming more and more just constantly about Bitcoin because you can't ignore it, And the interesting thing is about it, when I did a show where I talked about his takes and his son who is into Bitcoin, and it's this amazing duality of like where Peter often loses the argument with his son, and the reason he loses is not because he's in the wrong, but just because he's lacking the education. If he learned more about crypto and he learned about Dash and Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin and Ethereum, if he hasn't even got that far, if he got except to say they're just inflating the supply and therefore it's an infinite supply of nothing. If he got past that and started attacking Bitcoin on its weak points relative to other cryptocurrencies, he would have a lot more ammo, but he has, he's just blanked it all out. In his mind. Anyway, that's enough about Peter Schiff for today's show. So yeah, let's crack on then with the price is down a little bit. USD $449.48 for Bitcoin Cash earlier today. The BTC to BCH ratio is about 1 to 109. So BCH has been down, but it's been fluctuating quite a lot. Actually, it's been up in the 90 range down to the 110 range. So it does move around quite a lot. So I mean, obviously you are now living entirely on crypto. Has that changed the way that you interact with the price? Like, for instance, do you see it more as your wealth, like I do, fixed in cryptocurrencies, and then the sort of USD fluctuates against your crypto rather than vice versa? Or do you notice it in the price of regular goods, like a sandwich is however many Dash, or, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I do see it more of like a fluctuation of purchasing power. Like it to me, I mean, that's kind of what I have to account for in terms of like, what are you holding? What's your net worth? It's like, well, it's those numbers on the blockchain. That's what uh constitutes that. And so it's something going on sale versus something becoming extremely expensive. That's kind of the thing. And it's, I think it really makes you more I would say efficient and hardy at dealing with risks, because if you think about it, if you're a salaryman, you get a paycheck every month or twice a month or however often that is, and you have extreme certainty in your life. You have that. Your expenses are very fixed, especially if you're in the typical U.S. corporate world, where then you have if you own a house, you don't really own it. You have payments, you have car payments, you have everything like that. It's all very safe and stable. Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, it's anything but that. And this is especially compounded locally here in New Hampshire, where a lot of businesses get a lot uh, of their customers during tourist season. It's a big tourist spot, and so uh, some restaurants won't be profitable most of the year. It just that when the summer tourists come in, all of a sudden you get this big influx in money, and that kind of evens things out. And so it's the same kind of a thing. It's like you're a personal business, right? You just there's good months, bad months, whatever, and you have to be flexible to kind of ride those waves. So like when you have a big astronomical pump, that's when you go buy a lot of things. And then when everything's down in the dumps, you make sure to be very careful with what you spend. And of course, you have to make sure you have continuing income all the time, and that no one's, paying you too little, right? And then also you find ways of saving money that do not involve, they kind of supersede whether the price goes up or down. So, like, for example, if the price takes a 6% tumble, but you're saving 10 or 11% on a purchase because, some whatever system you're using allows for that, then, that's a lot better. Or if you lost like 15% of your net worth because the market's dipped, but you're having some earning like 20% APY in some like yield pool or something, then it's like, okay, that works out better. It kind of drives you to pursue, utility rather than just, keeping in a very static and safe and stable pattern.
Yeah, I think people sort of there's so much, sort of back and forth about people, oh, we need a solution to volatility and we need this and that. But I think at the end of the day, maybe a lot of the solution to volatility will just be on the individual side rather than there being all these. I mean, there obviously are more and more tools to lock things to stable values and whatever, but even locking things to a fiat currency value is kind of a bad deal because you're losing out there. So you've got to really be willing to pay that premium for that, quote unquote stability, right? So in that sense, I think, a lot of it is just going to come down to individuals learning to manage their finances differently the more involved they get with crypto, and probably honestly for the better, because when you are on a sort of more sound monetary system, even with the volatility factored in, that's hard to get over initially. But once you get over that initial hurdle, it's actually a lot better, which is you don't need to, you're not like fighting against the tide, basically. You're not swimming upstream. Instead, over the long run, you're actually swimming downstream. So a lot of it, plays into it that way, I think. But yeah, basically, crypto's had a bad week in the markets this week. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. As far as go on.
They still have fiat exposure. It's great. Like that's the problem. Is it's been, what can I say, something like 5-6 years since I have been able to buy the dip.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have not been able to. In fact, I'm not even sure if I've ever bought crypto with fiat. I think I've earned everything I have, like from as far as like payments and salary and stuff. But I mean, if you're one of these people who has fiat, which is 99% of you, I mean, it's an opportunity, right? If you believe in the stuff, you believe in the technology, which if you do believe in it, you should be educated in the reasons why you do. This is a good opportunity to like because number go down means number go up later. And so if you get a lower number, then it goes up. I mean, some people might just be like, okay, well, bear market confirmed. I'm going to go start buying in 2 years. And like, all right, you can do that too. Or you could buy now and then maybe it pumps a little bit more and then you spend it on things and save some money there. And then I don't know. I'm not anyone's financial advisor. Just these are some
none of this show
there.
is none of this show is financial advice. At all. But anyway, that's exactly it, and I think I also just find it hilarious that so many crypto people, but I'm buying the dip, and it's like every single time they say they're buying the dip, and it's like, you claim to be all in on crypto, this is the way we're going, hell yeah, why would you ever own fiat, blah blah blah, and then you're still buying every dip. Come on, either the story doesn't add up. Either you're grandstanding, which I'm sure happens a lot, and also there's just a lot of lying. You're not actually buying the dip, or you bought like $1 from your little buy the dip stash or whatever. Anyway, the point is the free market sorts it out. So you can't be, nobody ever made money tweeting how much they were buying the dip. So good luck to them with that strategy. Right. As far as the transactions, so we are down a little bit this week for BCH, but seemed to, a new little floor there at about 65,000 transactions a day. BTC, was dipping down closer to 220 again. So, still more than like 25% of the volume, but it was looking like it was creeping up a bit. I actually don't know why it's been kind of rocky recently, that there was any particular services that came or went offline or any flood of interest. I don't know, maybe in the bear market, everybody's just hodling their coins a bit and less likely to spend them like we were talking about. Do you follow the sort of transaction numbers, like even in Dash or anything? Do you take anything out of those stats?
Yeah, I used to. There was a period in my life, which was maybe up until a year ago, like a few years, like 2-3 years, where I watched transaction count daily of like a bunch of different chains. And I really think it's useful information still. It's so much less instructive than what you might think. It's the trends you kind of want to look at. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin, BTC, has been it's been at capacity for, let's just say, 5 years, right? It's been basically constantly at capacity with different levels of demand for that, different values that people were willing to put behind that, but still it's been pretty much flat. And sometimes you even see it go up because there is some extra capacity in there somewhere, but you pretty much see it's like that. The thing is, when with all these cheaper chains, for example, like anything with very low transaction fees, it's really difficult to make sense of just numbers, because anyone can just kick out a transaction over and over and over. It just doesn't really matter, which is, example BSV. Again, I don't want to pick on them too much, but just like right out the gate, as soon as this split, like, oh, it's like Satoshi's real chain, and look at all his utility, and like right away the transactions jump into the several hundred thousands a day, and not just, oh, we did a gigablock test. It's like it's constant, and it's like, well, there's some weather app that's kicking out this, and oh, then that stops, and then there's something else, and it's like, how many transactions? It's not really instructive at all. Ethereum's transactions are very instructive. Now, when you start to see percentage of block reward and fee starts to creep up, that's much more instructive, I guess. But it's still like you don't really see that in a significant way on not at capacity chains. But it's very important to like look at all this. One thing I looked at a lot was also like obviously total value moved could be a good one. The
That's
problem
the
is
next one. Yeah. Cent USD. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just go to that one and I'll talk about that minute.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's, sort of to carry on. That's like, I agree with you, obviously, right? You can take something out of the price. You can take something out of the transactions. You can take something out of the cent USD. Together, they're about, 10% of the picture, right? So that's why I like to do those at the start of every show, and then obviously followed by the analysis of what's actually going on. To me, that's obviously the main thing, right? But for the cent in USD, BCH has been, still doing about 5 billion a day, which is way ridiculous. That's like half the market cap. It's probably the highest coin there is of any of the significant ones in terms of how much value flows across it every day relative to the price, and BTC has been sort of jumping up and down in this kind of weird pattern, I guess, as the volatility in the market kind of ramps up and a few more people try and sell in or out. But yeah, what do you take away from these kind of metrics?
Yeah, so the big caveat, first off, if it's a metric anyone cares about, it will be gamed, which is why, again, the BSV thing, I believe there are some people who are trying to game that metric. But like I could move, like you could just take a whale and just move their money back and forth a couple times. Oh, look at how much got moved. You could. It's just when you start seeing the consistent patterns, like with the up, down, up, down, up, down, we see on BTC there. It's clearly a pattern. It's clearly the pulse of the way the network works. And the consistency of that is pretty obvious, that a lot of exchanges or large providers like that have regular shufflings of some kind. Like they regularly cash out on a certain basis, they regularly transfer to whatever. There's some big players that are regularly moving a big chunk of money on a regular type of a basis. And so that's kind of what you see there. Now, the thing that makes it a lot I guess murkier is as things such as the Liquid, if anyone even uses that, and Lightning Network, as that stuff starts to grow, and Lightning didn't grow at all like for years. This year you've seen some actual growth, but then it becomes much more difficult for the on-chain metrics to actually tell you anything. Like at some point you might just like have the value moved by BTC be like almost nothing, like very little, and then every few months all of a sudden this big as like all this money changes hands, but it doesn't actually change hands because it already changed hands on the Lightning Network, but they're just settling up into the real world and just kind of switches across. I also like to look at median transaction value, because that just tells you what's the most typical payment size, and that's it's really hard to it's not really hard, but it's a lot more difficult to kind of fake that, because if you have if you have a few large transactions, that can move the average, but then if you spit out a whole bunch of tiny spam transactions, then the median transaction value is going to be like a penny. And so it's like, well, that's not a real payment, right? And so it's one of those metrics that's harder to game, but it also doesn't mean this is being used for valuable things. It just means a lot of people are using it to move smaller amounts. And what does that mean? Could be anything, really. But I just like looking at all this stuff I'm talking about, all these numbers, and basically they mean nothing, but they do mean something. You just don't know what they mean. I like to look at them because you can kind of start to deduce things or debunk certain things, or like the network data doesn't hold up, against certain claims. But on their own, they're just information. They're not really definitive. The one thing over time, total fees generated by the network on the networks that have fees, not all of them do, uh, that tends to be something it's hard to gain because it's literally money lost, and no one's going to be losing a big chunk of money every month, like maybe for like a few weeks, but not every month, just to push that number up. They have to be getting a return on that investment. So that's the most interesting metric. But the problem is it only really applies to like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe like Avalanche, maybe Binance Smart Chain, maybe like there's a couple others that maybe that there's a blip on that radar, but for everything else, it's like 0.0001% of the block reward is in fees.
Yeah, and I guess all these different numbers, like for instance, I've been really interested in the fact that as like you said, BTC is kind of at soft capacity. Even the blocks aren't even full, but the miners aren't really bothering to pack it in all exactly tight, or there's not enough sort of fee competition or whatever the hell is going on. So it's kind of slightly below that. And if that ramped up a little bit, the fees would like rocket. But instead, what is happening is the average thing sent has been going like at a 45-degree angle for 6 or 8 months or whatever, which to me sort of indicates that basically just the smaller players are just finding their way onto other chains, and new small players are routing around BTC. They're coming to BCH or to any of the other millions of other chains. The same thing's kind of happening to Ethereum. People just take one look at it. They don't even make their first transaction. They just move on to a different network. And meanwhile, the people who are still in that ecosystem,
they put their whole paycheck into Ethereum, and they want to move it onto Uniswap, and this is not enough funds.
Yeah. And they're just like, all right, it's time to sell out. back to find the next thing, right?
But they can't because it costs too much to move it. So they're just stuck with this like.
But I don't think people don't even get. Yeah, I guess so. People don't even get on chain though. That's what I'm talking about. Like if you're new to crypto now, you buy it on Coinbase or whatever, and there's no fee or whatever. And then as soon as you try and send it anywhere, it's suddenly like, wow, this is expensive. I better not do that. Let me just sell this and buy something else. I think there's a lot of that kind of happening as well too. But that's just my speculation, really. Right. So on to the actual news. So first news item for this week, huge news in my mind. CoinFlex and Bitcoin.com, two very large businesses that are both very BCH friendly, have signed this $30 million cooperation deal. It actually wasn't really clear what money was going where, but I think basically Bitcoin.com maybe paid CoinFlex $30 million in exchange for CoinFlex now providing the back-end infrastructure for their exchange.bitcoin.com, and also so that Bitcoin.com could add into their wallet, they could license the sort of yield products and the so-called AMM, the automated market making stuff that CoinFlex does, and not coincidentally, CoinFlex is also the one who's running the bridge to Smart BCH. So that also is going to be on the sort of agenda here soon too. So this is just absolutely massive news to me. For the, it's good because obviously it's a great cooperation between those businesses, and it does sort of move the BCH scene forward in the sense that the community has sort of like bottomed out and is starting to get the idea, okay, now we got to start making money, and that's got to be what's driving things rather than sort of like ideology. I mean, the ideology has got it a long way and that will remain part of it, but the actual once you start backing that up with companies that are making money reinvesting back into the scene, that will be huge. And I also really want to make a point to everyone listening that I just think this is so bullish for BCH. I mean, when am I not? But this in particular, because It's sort of like in an army, you need to have every little part of your army doing the right thing, right? You got to have your infantry doing the right thing, and then your heavy artillery doing something, and your helicopters doing something. And this is sort of like where when people talk about the network effect, that doesn't just mean peer-to-peer consumer like payments. That's a big part of it, but the other part of it is in your scene, the bigger players in your scene, you want them to be starting to kind of sync up with each other, and that's what we're seeing here. CoinFlex and Bitcoin.com are teaming up, and then not coincidentally, Jihan Wu has developed Smart BCH, and now that's adding into that, and they're able to do all of this because the protocol development is fairly stable. So all of these sort of bigger pieces are starting to like click together and create a stronger ecosystem for everyone. So in that regard, if you have that going on, which we're starting to see, as well as the smaller things like lots of small little content creators coming up, or just more memes going around on Twitter, or those sort of individual action things, you want to be seeing that, and you want to see the big players making big moves, right? And that combo of things is what makes a successful community. If you only have one or the other, then like for instance, with BTC, they're the classic of they only have the big players, right? All the small fish have vanished, and then you have a lot of smaller coins where it's only small fish and there's no big players. So yeah, I'm just think this is absolutely fantastic news. But yeah, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I just so last week I believe I just interviewed Mark Lamb for my channel. I haven't released it yet, but I was chatting with him about big moves that CoinFlex is making, as well as getting the big rundown on Smart BCH, because I have to be honest, the actual like marketing and presentation of it is extremely confusing. Like me as an 8-year crypto veteran, I just like, what is Smart BCH? And then someone sent me some infographic, and I'm like, this makes no sense. This is like, I have no idea. And so then I had to actually chat with Mark to like figure it out. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. And I think that a lot of this, what's missing to a lot of people, and this is like a lot, it's so funny to me sometimes when you have people who are complete free market advocates who think they know what the market has pre-chosen. They're like, okay, well, I believe in the free market and this is what everyone wants. That sounds kind of like socialist central planning to me, but it's an easy trap to fall into. I fell into it a little bit, saying like, oh, people want peer-to-peer electronic cash, and they do to a certain extent, like, and they will a lot more in the future, I believe. But the number go up use case is number one, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I mean, there is a lot of like speculation, gambling, and stuff, but people want to make money. People want to invest, and the fiat world is what. I mean, the fiat world prices the little guys out. Everyone who's not a little guy in the fiat world is putting their money, their opportunity cost for that capital to work, getting more money, doing things. And the little guy, like a chump, has it in some savings account where they're just losing money all the time. And then they just think like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe I'll let my company invest in some retirement account, but it's just really for the tax benefits. I don't really like, they're not really at the table. But then DeFi is really where that started to click in people's minds, where it's like, oh, you mean I could buy this and then I could put it here and I could put it there and I get more of it. And like, oh, I mean, I can actually like retire not at 65 or something. Maybe I can retire at 55 or 40, or, you mean maybe I can earn a little extra. And this whole revolution, that's really what has utility to people. I mean, uh, like when I buy my coffee, no government in the world could censor that or stop it or inflate the transaction. Yay me. I still bought a coffee like everyone else. Like I did it in like a more like self-righteous way than everyone else, but it's still like I didn't do anything no one else can do. And but if you then have something in, let's say, DeFi or some investment or something like that, and you're actually putting your money to work, growing your wealth in ways that the little guy can't because of investor laws and regulations and things like that in the old fiat world. That's something new, and people are starting to figure that out. And so like when people are I want to kind of separate the number or go up into three subcategories there, because in the past it was like a lot of speculation, which is saying I am betting that this project will be huge. It'll be like the next Apple or Tesla or whatever that's going to go up. So I'm going to put money on here because I'm betting it's going to go up in the future. There is almost all that. Right now, there's a little bit of that too, but there's also a lot of just investment. People just want to put their money into, like, allocate their capital in a way that's useful, and they get rewarded for their opportunity cost of what else that could be done. There's that one, but there's also like the meme coin thing is gambling, which speculation is kind of like gambling, but it's not the same. Like, no one is putting a coin into a slot machine in casinos being like, maybe I'm gonna own a piece of the casino that like is the biggest of all. No, no, they know, they just want to, maybe I'll get some back. And there is a gambling use case. I mean, I don't believe in it, let's be honest, but people are buying Doge and Sheep and all these other things because they want to gamble. They want to just, like, part of it is some of it is they want to get more money, but a lot of it is also just the fun of gambling, which I don't really get. I don't like that risk. I live my life plenty riskily enough already, living without fiats. I don't need more risk, but some people, they love the fun. They love to be able to put the money in and be like, oh, maybe I'll be a millionaire. And even if they lose it, they don't care because they got that rush. They got that feeling of like, oh, I got to dream for a day. And so that's kind of what people want. And it is good to see, the smart players starting to wake up to this fact. It's like, oh, why can't I provide liquidity on Bitcoin Cash? Like, oh, well, that's a good question. Let's make it so you can. Oh, like, why can't I X? Why can't I Z? And now it's kind of waking up to, the needs of the modern market, which is not like a kowtowing to, lower value demands. It's actually just being a free marketeer. It's actually giving the customer what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are kind of down on, well, especially people in Bitcoin Cash who are more ideologically driven, or, perhaps even, like you and me are sort of more in it for, you have to be able to pay. If you can't pay, it's not money, but I'm still not, super disappointed. It would have been nice if the message didn't get all distorted and things had kind of carried on with the, larger block size, the sort of original vibe that Bitcoin had. That would have been nice. But in lieu of that, it's actually not the end of the world that people are finding all these other kind of ways around it, because the main point is people getting the idea that this is valuable and it's something you should want. And as soon as you have that, then it's only a matter of time, of that cogitating around in people's brains before they think, well, if somebody wants to pay me back with this, why wouldn't I take it? Or why don't I ask to get that instead? That will happen naturally if it's something that's the key point is that it's desirable. If it gets to be desirable, the payments will come eventually. It's more about making that leap. And so since it's finding its way, through the cracks, I'm sort of optimistic about that aspect of it. I don't think it's really something we need to, freak out about if a lot of people are trading Dogecoin, because all those people, they're never going to hate crypto, even if they lose all their money. Oh, well, or maybe a couple of them will and be upset it was a scam, but the majority would just be like, I knew what I was getting into. This was kind of fun, but obviously a Dogecoin can have value. So why can't a Bitcoin, or why can't some other token? And it teaches people a lot in terms of the way crypto does work, which is that things have value because people value them. Now, they might value them for all different reasons, like, for instance, basically a Ponzi scheme in Dogecoin, but they might value some of the other coins because of monetary fundamentals, or because there is a legitimate, round of investment going, or some technological innovation, or whatever that can provide that seed of community. And then once you add a community onto that, there's your value. It's just, money is just something you trade with people,
Yeah. And it's also important to see more people are getting crypto, and what the payment coin kind of use case is spending your crypto. But the thing is, it's difficult. Like, Bitcoin Cash is not very good at letting you spend your fiat. You know what I mean? It's like, if you have fiat, that's all you got is fiat, and you're like, well, use this because it'll help you spend money and not be censored. It's like, well, I got to buy it And then I got to, like deal with all that headache, which involves a fiat transaction, which can be censored. And then you got this stuff that now you can spend. And that's always like it's just a harder use case. But like when people have crypto and it's just trivial to just swap it over and then you spend it, then all of a sudden people are going to really want to spend it. It's just that no one had crypto and it's just like, buy this thing so you can get rid of it right away. It's like, what? But now everyone's having it. Everyone's into this stuff. It's like, I think that you can spend your crypto everywhere kind of hype train. I mean, the use case, the practical thing has always been there, but the hype train, I think, is going to come back around in a few years.
Yeah, I agree. Give it another year to 3 years. There'll be a tipping point of everyone rediscovering cryptocurrency with the currency like all capital letters. That will kind of come around, and that'll be huge boon to BCH, I'm sure, and also several other currencies too, but primarily BCH. So yeah, and one other thing I just wanted to mention, which I didn't put on the slide, but which is sort of semi-related to this, is I saw that CoinFlex have done a deal with Polk, the poker player, and got him on as a brand ambassador. And that also I find immensely bullish, because he was talking about BCH a couple months ago and he was a bit iffy about it, but he obviously likes the team at CoinFlex. He gets on with Mark Lamb. He's got it. And so now that idea is going to be getting into his head, and it just goes to show that same thing, that if you prioritize CoinFlex making a lot of money, well, then now that you're able to just buy people onto your site. That's the crypto strategy, really. More and more people who are like middle ground on crypto or even against it, once they get on the payroll, now it's all crypto all day. So that's I can just see those pieces locking together kind of in the ecosystem, which is great for me to great, I think. Really positive looking forward. All right, so we've got in a similar vein, Kim.com was sort of semi-announcing this new project. He put out a tweet. He said 2022 will be a big year for crypto, and especially for Bitcoin Cash, which is kind of what he's been saying for a while. Soon, millions of new users will be introduced to BCH with frequent rain showers of cash. We've been working on something special to enable mass rewards from businesses and influencers to their community. So, I mean, this was hype if it was sort of believable. I'm a bit middle ground on Kim's announcements at the moment, because he spent all of this year announcing that Bitcoin Cash is the greatest thing ever, but he was going to do his project called K.IM, which I talked about on the show at the start of the year when he was first announcing it. That was going to come out in Q4 of 2021, and he then later has sort of delayed it and said it will be on January 22nd, 2022, which is the 10-year anniversary of the raid on his house. So that sounds awesome, and I guess we'll see in January, right? But there's been a lot of like, this is going to be sick, and not a ton of like follow through. So it's kind of weird that he's now announcing this second thing, which is completely different, and kind of comes out of nowhere. So I'm really happy for him to put up some results and drop any of this stuff, and I'll be first in line to check it out and be excited about it. But it was definitely, the idea sounds good, but I'm seeing a lot of ideas and not a lot of execution here, really. So I don't know, any take on that?
Yeah. So I remember many years ago when I was writing regularly for Cointelegraph, I covered Kim.com. He unveiling some new project that he was going to run. Is going to be on Bitcoin. It's going to use Bitcoin, all this stuff. And that was like 2015, maybe 2016. And like, oh, this Bitcoin's going to run on Bitcoin and stuff. And then I don't know what happened to that. And then he's like, oh, Bitcoin Cash is the one I like now. And he's like, oh, this cool big project. Oh, it's going to be great. And like what I've learned with this individual in particular is it seems like he's a effective hype person, right? He's a larger than life personality that like talks about, oh, this is going to be cool, and like gets people excited, which is a valuable thing. It's also to where I do not take his word as gospel. Like it's kind of like, even among the most honest people in the space, this is still a very experimental space with so much uncertainty, and just the odds of delivery are a little are lower just because of that. And when you deliver something, is it going to be good? Is it going to work? I don't know. And it's amplified when you have something someone like Kim, I'm not trying to like hate on it. Let's be clear about that. It would be great if he did something cool. He's been talking a big game, so I'd like to see what happens, what really gets delivered, and then see what that's going to be. But then again, I'm also reminded of things like EOS. Do you remember when EOS was the next big thing, and it was like the Ethereum killer, or whatever? And then at some point, and people liked it based on what it actually did. But the thing is, they sunk like $140 million, I think, into voice.com. And like, I don't know if anyone used it ever. Like, it basically destroyed the entire project. It's like, this social media platform that doesn't exist anymore now. It just like never worked. And it was like the biggest thing ever. And I think it was all legit. Like, people really thought this was going to change everything. And it just changed nothing except for the fortunes of EOS holders, So I don't know what's going to like these. I think that when big things are not able to be predicted, I think that they come out, you see them, you try them, then you say, "Oh, this is a huge thing. I need to tell everybody about this thing that exists." But things that don't exist are not huge, I don't think, because they don't exist. And when they exist, if they do, they might not be huge. So I'm gonna just like watch him with that little side eye for a while, just like, okay, Kim, let me see what you got. And then when he comes out with something, then I'll be like, oh, well, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's put a date on this one in
Mm-hmm.
January of 2022. That's when K.IM is supposed to come out. So we'll see if there's something comes out of that, or it's sort of more, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
delays or sort of excuses or rationalizations or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Everyone in the crypto space, just hell, everybody in life is sort of guilty of, okay, you say you're going to do this and then it doesn't always come through. I mean, classically, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk, like he has so many haters who just, oh, but Elon said they were going to deliver this many Cybertrucks at this exact time and blah, blah, blah. He didn't do it. Right. And it's like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
he didn't do that, but he did also like change
Did a
the
lot of
fact that
things.
everyone thought, EVs was impossible or unviable. And now it's huge. Like, you've got it. So there's a bit of leeway, to anybody to talk it up and
Mm-hmm.
then follow through or not to differing extents. So you do have to kind of take that into account. And I don't want to be seen as hating or trashing his stuff, because it might come out and be sick. I really hope it is.
Yeah. Same.
But to date, we're just lacking a little bit of that. And it's funny that mirrors the, like you were saying about the Ethereum killer, and the Ethereum community themselves are quite chuffed about the fact that every chain now thinks they're the Ethereum killer, and the joke for them is haha, but they're not, because we're still number 2 and we're still doing great or whatever. But it's kind of a weird middle ground, because they can't be too excited about too many Ethereum killers, because they didn't come from nowhere either. Like, obviously, if Ethereum was doing great, there wouldn't be no such thing as Ethereum killers. But even if they haven't got it right, clearly people are throwing darts at the dartboard, trying to figure out something different. And there's a problem that the Ethereum community haven't solved, or haven't been able to, sort of bring everyone back. So I guess it kind of comes to talk being cheap by the Ethereum killers to say we're an Ethereum killer. Doing it is different. But on the other hand, it's also talk is pretty cheap on the Ethereum side to say, no, we're going to fix our problems with fees. Proof of stake is here. EIP 1559 was going to fix everything. Then it didn't. There's a lot of expectation versus reality going on in cryptocurrency, I think.
That's for sure. Especially, I do think with Ethereum, it's a big compliment that there's so many people that have, like, most of the market today is Ethereum killers. It's literally trying to do the thing that you do best, or you do the number one. You're at the number one spot. But it's also a little worrying that so many are Ethereum killers / replacements and not complements. So many of them are trying to be the next one because they see, like, why would you try to compete with something that's absolutely killing it? You wouldn't. But when you start to see weaknesses, then that's when you kind of start circling around. The world will start to circle. And so that's kind of what they're seeing, I think. The thing that worries me about Ethereum isn't so much the fees, isn't so much that there's so many killers / competition out there. It's that same kind of attitude of, we're not going to really fix the real problems. And I didn't really see this. I just thought, oh, well, Ethereum 2.0, we'll see what that does. That was kind of my attitude, because I'm not hugely up on Ethereum. But then I started hearing, well, whatever the fellow's name is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he runs Blockchair, the Block Explorer, and Nikita, and he was talking about how, first off, he predicted the IP 1559 would change nothing in terms of the fees. And it did add this very interesting, possibly deflationary aspect to Ethereum, but which probably ratcheted up the price significantly, but it didn't do anything for fees. And it was like it was a SegWit. It was such a bait and switch where they're just like, no, this is the scaling solution. They put it, well, and like, how come it didn't scale? Well, no, it's for other things. Don't worry about that. I'm like, really this again? And then just the talk of like, oh, we can't raise the gas limit, i.e. block size, because we want everyone to be able to run their node. Who cares if no one can even move their money, like, without, and all that kind of stuff. And oh yeah, just wait, proof of stake will solve this. It's like, well, it won't solve that. Like, you should be working on this first. And there's a few of these things. And then the funniest thing, and I'm not hating on Ethereum either. I think it's pioneered a giant chunk of the space, like NFTs, tokens, DeFi, all this stuff that's like huge, and a huge part of the future of the human race, all like started on Ethereum for the most part. So I'm not hating, but the other thing is Ethereum maximalist is pretty funny. It's like, you didn't see how silly the last batch look, like, oh, everything else will die, everything's a shit coin except Ethereum. Like, oh boy, here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that is it, and I've brought it up a few times on this show, but I've just found it really, really interesting. It's kind of like cope. You've seen the classic one that I've seen most recently has been, if you go on reddit.com/r/cryptocurrency, well, BCH is heavily banned from being discussed there. Just a heads up to everyone. But anyway, they're big fans of Ethereum in there. A lot of people like Ethereum. And so there was these sort of comments that I was seeing from people, which kind of were going along the lines of, somebody was saying, oh, BTC is doing this. And then somebody else says, Ethereum is doing this because it's better in this way, or whatever. And then you would have somebody come in at the end of the chain and sort of say, no, you guys have got it wrong. It's like two apex predators, it's like a shark and a tiger. They're both, the kings of their like domain, but they're not really directly competing. And I just thought, oh man, this is really like getting bad, because the Bitcoin community, their whole shtick is we're the one and only, which once upon a time they were, but they aren't, because they have, for all the reasons we've already covered in the history of this podcast. And then Ethereum is now coming in, and they're trying, they were like, we're going to be not Bitcoin, but now they're sort of falling into the exact same pattern and trying to sort of be like, well, but we could be next to Bitcoin. And it's just kind of like, it's the same thing happening, all over again, exactly like you said.
Historically, apex predators are some of the most vulnerable to environmental changes. Just saying.
Bam. That's a quote. I gotta tweet that out at some point. I'll credit you for that one.
I'll tweet it out. Maybe I'll tweet it out and you retweet it or something.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Just tag a few people who love Ethereum. Or see if you can find an example of somebody popping out this meme and then get it in the replies.
Or just tweet it straight out, but then like every day, in a comment, just mention another like shitty influencer like Tone Vase.
Try and drag them into the debate.
I have actually had like a 2.5 hour in-person debate with Tone Vase before, and
really,
I should check that out. My spirit never recovered.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. I do follow what Tone Vase is up to. Actually, it's I think very informative actually to keep abreast of what he's thinking, the sort of segment of the market that he's speaking for or representing. It's certainly interesting to see what's on their mind.
For him personally, I don't think his words always align with his beliefs. He's not as dumb as he comes across. He's a little of a caricature, So I'll give him that leeway. He's a little performative.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he hams it up for the camera a bit too. Who knows? All right. Next thing we've got is South Park had a little segment on Bitcoin. So I'm going to ask Jet, hopefully, if he can play this on the stream for everybody to. It's only 30 seconds long, and I actually haven't seen the whole episode, so I have literally no context for what this was sort of surrounded by. But as far as I could see from the discussion, this was sort of the key moment. It was not like a whole episode about crypto or anything. It was just this sort of little 30-second bit here. Yeah, so this comes from this guy, Lark Davis on Twitter. Ooh, 736,000 followers. That's definitely a heavy hitter. That's in the Wales territory. He tweeted out, "Bitcoin is the future of money," according to South Park, with this clip. And the funny thing was that then I found this clip because then somebody was kind of replying to it, being like, haha, look at this idiot. He thinks South Park thinks that Bitcoin is the future of money. And I guess we're gonna hear this clip and then and then take a side. Is this pro or anti Bitcoin? The endless sort of debate, which reoccurs in a lot of Bitcoin history, funnily enough, where people who are pro Bitcoin see the same thing as people who are anti Bitcoin, and they both take it as confirmation that they're right. It seems they can't, neither side is sort of willing to take an L and say, okay, that one didn't work out for us. Instead, it's like, no, this is more evidence I'm right. Maybe that's just life. Everybody likes to confirm their sort of echo chamber.
Hello, welcome to the Super 12 Motel Plus. Can I help you?
Yeah, Stan Marsh, I have a room for one night.
Okay, I see you're in one of our Mach 10 Super Plus rooms. Now, of course, we only take Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency because, it's the future. We've all decided centralized banking is rigged, so we trust more in fly-by-night Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, super slick little interaction there. But basically the point was that this Lark Davis was saying, "Oh, Bitcoin is the future of money," or whatever is what he says in the clip. But then of course the haters were saying, "Yeah, but it's South Park, it's sarcasm, like, oh, it's so the future of money kind of thing." And I mean, my takeaway was twofold. Firstly, that maybe threefold. Firstly, that South Park is is on point here. Like, it's in the zeitgeist. People are thinking about this. This conversation is happening. So if they're bringing it up, to me, there's no such bad thing as bad publicity. The second thing was that as much as there's sort of this tone or snark or whatever in the actual clip, well, A, it's South Park and it's satirical, but also B, the guy does just then one tap pay with Bitcoin and he's out of there. They could have made it, I couldn't get this to work, or like whatever. So despite the actual discussion, the proof is in the pudding. They only accept Bitcoin, he pays, it's done, and he's out of there. So to me, that was sort of pretty pro Bitcoin. And the third thing was that he actually says Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So that's kind of the zeitgeist that we're at now, is you don't need to introduce Bitcoin at all. And you also don't need to justify or explain, like, there's Bitcoin and there's Ethereum and there's blah, blah, blah. All this, you don't even need to get into that. Everybody's kind of on board with that. So from my perspective, the people who were saying, haha, South Park said Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, you are missing the point. If South Park is saying the word Bitcoin at all, that's good for Bitcoin. If they're saying it's a Ponzi scheme but showing someone paying with Bitcoin, that's even better for Bitcoin. So that was my take. What did you think?
I can't imagine being some person who tries to psychoanalyze as like a scientific document humor. The most humorless people in the world. It must be so sad to be those people that see a joke and are trying to say, well, this joke is clearly saying witty commentary on this, therefore should be taken 100% seriously. Yes, humor does include a lot of witty commentary. A lot of the best stuff is humor, but it's supposed to be funny. If you chuckle at it, I mean, like, it's parodying, like, a lot of people today are into cryptocurrency or have heard about it or talking, people that don't even own any, or like, I think Bitcoin's the future, hashtag hodl. It's like, I know people, friends of mine, who are like now tweeting about a hodl. It's like, you don't have any crypto at all. I know you don't have anything. What are you talking about? But because it's there, it's just like an easy parody to be like, in the 20, 30 years in the future, everyone's spending crypto. It's like, haha, that's funny because that's a thing in my cultural zeitgeist today and is being represented in a funny way in the future. It's not like, well, the oracles of South Park are predicting that this is going to happen, and they're saying in a positive light, and because of their blessing, because of these stick figure drawing comedic cartoon people, they give credence to the value of my monetary system. It's like, come on, it's funny. It's funny. That's all it is. Don't read into it. The only thing you can read into it is if they're talking about it, that means everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it comes from, especially people on the sort of hater side. But I will admit, yeah, also definitely on the crypto side, people are, like I said before, are trying to divine into it their own. They're trying to confirm their own bias. Basically, they're seeing what they want to see in the mirror, kind of thing, rather than understanding, that if it's South Park are not necessarily taking a position in that way.
I just want to
Yeah,
hop in real quick too,
Yeah.
because Spotify did their yearly wrap up, and there's a whole slide in that thing that millions of people went through, right? And the slide says, while everyone else was trying to figure out NFTs, you had one song on repeat. Like everyone's talking about cryptocurrency, whether or not they're involved.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting, that's why we're going to see probably, I would think, in the next 5 years, basically, there's going to be a tipping point at which it's just going to be like the FOMO to end all FOMOs now, because literally like massive percentages of the global population, maybe upwards of 50% are all in the situation of like, wait, everybody I know is talking about crypto, and a lot of people I know, or some people I know, have got crypto, and now everybody's buying crypto, and now it's going through the roof. And this is all a bit confusing, but like the sort of what's that bell curve meme of like early adopters? No, it's not even a meme, but early adopters, innovators, early adopters, sort of early majority, right? We're like creeping into where we're about to hit that sort of early majority phase of just like the floodgates open and people just powering into it, and that's the kind of groundwork that is being laid culturally by these kind of mentions.
Yeah, my gut feeling is this cycle and then the next will be the FOMO cycles, but after that it's just gonna be boring. It's just people are going to start using it en masse, but there's not going to be a splash. It's just like, oh, all of a sudden, everything, you can spend your stuff everywhere. I mean, what I would love to say, what I would love to see is just throw out a word to the global, let's just say the global first world population, right? Just let's not, how many people know what the word MetaMask means? Like, I think many, many millions, probably. And how many have actually used MetaMask? Several millions. Like, a lot of people have. Like, how many people have bought the newest NFT of whatever, even if they just hooked in their credit card and hit buy, and then it just auto did in Ethereum, they got the thing. Like, a lot of people, but like some of the more popular like pop influencers and stuff. I mean, I was watching Hot Ones the other day, which is this YouTube show, interview show over progressively spicier chicken wings, and Mila Kunis was on there talking about her new show Stoner Cats, that has like like a whole bunch of people like Kevin Hart and a bunch of celebrities voicing these animated like Stoner Cats, entirely funded by NFTs, and NFT holders get to decide where the story goes in the future. Like, it's kind of choose your own adventure type thing, and it's like, well, this is today that like one of the literal biggest stars behind like, and her husband Ashton Kutcher was, he's been a big crypto guy for years, but he was also like literally the first Twitter celebrity, like before anyone cared about Jack, right? He was the first guy that everyone was following on Twitter, like at the beginning of Twitter. And like some of the biggest names in the space are all about this stuff now, and not just talking about it, or like Floyd Mayweather, oh, buy my weird token that I'm going to get sued for by the government later. It's like, no, it's like people are making businesses around this today, and big people are, and it's not going to be too long until like it's not going to be like announcing planet Earth, we are all using crypto now, celebrate, pop the champagne. No, it'll just be, you start to see everyone do it. You'll just quietly notice your apartment complex have like a little like coin payments little option pop up or something. It'll be something like that, and it's like, oh, okay. And then they'll have like 2% of their volume in that, and then by a few years later, like 58% or something. It's just going to be quiet, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, as it goes, this is something I think, crypto, heads, crypto people have been in for a long time. Probably like you and I have really, or like Jed has as well. Everybody has imagined and understood this idea of an exponential taking off, but there's kind of several overlapping exponentials where the first one is like, brand recognition, right? How many people had heard the word Bitcoin? How many people, and then it kind of comes the second one. How many people had heard it 5 times? And then how many people understood what that meant? And then how many people had made a crypto transaction? And then how many people were using it as their primary form of money? Like, even so, that bell curve is still like quite at the fringe edge, right? But each of these overlapping waves is just slow as time moves on. I should make a little graphic or something of this, because that's really what is explaining what's going on as each of those waves just sort of slowly moves forward in the future. I think I've even commented to somebody on Twitter. Somebody said something like, haha, according to Bitcoiners, everything is good for Bitcoin. And that's a bit of a meme, because Bitcoiners just like to say that. But the fact is, it's actually true that time passing is bullish for crypto, because you can't unhear about crypto. You can't unlearn how a blockchain works. You can't unrealize that fiat money is just one thing that people use. You can't unlearn the phrase fiat money. How many people knew the word fiat money 20 years ago? And so if you talk about
pretty much just me.
I definitely didn't until,
that's because I was in like the gold bug stage, like from as soon as I remember what money was, I was in that stage, because like I grew up in the north of Mexico, and I saw like the 2 different currencies, and my grandmother had a bunch of old pesos. And I'm like, oh, what are these? Oh, they're no good anymore. We have new ones. Why was there new ones? Well, this money went kaput. This one didn't work, and they just made a new one. And it's 7 to the dollar. So, but it's actually 7,000 to the dollar, but they just cut off the zeros, and now it's just get rid of those zeros at 7. And then today it's like something like 28 to the dollar or something. It's like the inflation of the peso versus the dollar has been like, and then the dollar and
the dollar is inflating itself. Yeah.
And it's just like, I never really believed in fiat, to be honest.
I don't know. It's funny that you have that kind of story. I'll be interested to hear what Jet says, right? Because my story was, I was the opposite to you, right? Where, like you say, you're living in a situation where the currency is unstable, but you're kind of skeptical. I, grew up in Australia, and I, in Canberra, Australia, the capital, the most government political, place on earth, basically. And there, when I was a kid, I just remember reading the newspaper, and I was always fascinated by the interest rate, because the newspaper had all these sections. Okay, there's somebody, some local matters, whatever. I don't really care about that, but there was the sports section, and in front of the sports section, which nobody read, was the economics section. So I was always just like, what is going on here? And every time I read it, I never understood the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, how they were setting the interest rates, because everybody was always freaking out about it. It didn't matter whether it was going up or down or what. Everybody
probably no one knew why either. They just knew they were supposed to freak out.
That's right. And everybody was always clamoring about that, but it wasn't affecting what was going on. I was never thought, with my money, I don't go down to the shops and they're telling me about what the interest rate is. I'd never heard about that. But what I found really odd was that they had these people who were in charge of the interest rate, and it was like the Wizard of Oz or something. It was like, how do they know what's going on? I've never had one of them come and talk to me when I Exactly. But as a kid, I was just like, this makes, and so when I tried to talk to anybody about that, I would sort of get these kind of roundabout weird responses that I was like, that's clearly not the answer. Like, where is, how do they know what to make the interest rate? Because they don't even know if I bought a chocolate bar or not last week. I know that for sure. So
Yeah.
once you, and that's just me. If you multiply that out by 26, whatever, I don't know, 21 million people in Australia, they don't have any idea what's going on. Like, how would they know to get there was some magic number that they could perfectly get right? That didn't make any sense to me. So that was kind of why I was already primed for this. Jet, I don't know, do you have any when were you skeptical of money and finance?
I don't know if I could say that I don't think I got skeptical until I got involved in politics. As a kid, I grew up in a pretty poor household, and so I did like farm labor and like blueberry raking and ridiculous labor jobs. And like even in elementary school, I remember me and my friends would like make and sell bracelets, and at one point we rented out a whole room from the school, and we got shut down because other parents were coming in being like, our kids are spending all of their lunch money on these stupid little trinkets. So I was kind of interested in making fiat for probably like, a good 17 years of my life. And then I started a small business and kind of started looking into what was going on in the world because it was affecting that small business. And that's when I was like, the whole game's rigged. I want out.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So we've got 3 different origin stories there. We've got Jet, the entrepreneur, Jeremy, the macroeconomic analyst, and Joel, the hyperinflating economy. So that's an interesting, that's an interesting little trio of stories we've got there. Wow. But anyway, it's just funny how once you scratch the surface of these things, the sort of the threads come apart.
Random, not very useful troll comment, but I figure it's appropriate. You mentioned 21 million Australians, and it was about that when Bitcoin was created. There was 21 million Australians, 21 million Bitcoin.
It's Craig Wright.
Craig Wright's Australian. Just saying. I got all the documents.
He knew it was all a game plan all along. That was the conspiracy. Every Australian could have one. So luckily I did have one, and now I don't anymore. So rip me. I may as well just give up my citizenship. What kind of Australian am I if I don't own a Bitcoin? That's true. Nice. Okay, so then let's move on to this sort of topic that you kind of suggested to me that you would be a bit of an expert on. I'm definitely very interested to hear, which gives its title to the episode, Coin Commerce Competition, I've called it. A bit of a discussion about which coins can actually hold up under real world adoption scenarios. Funnily enough, like this South Park clip, like, right? That literal thing, you show up, you're somewhere, you want to buy something, and how that all goes down. And I also want to tie into that a little bit, maybe some thoughts. We've kind of already touched on it a bit, but let's think about as well too, with retail outlet payments experience, is that even necessary? Because in the early days, that was what it was all about, right? And now the industry has moved away from that, and it's all this DeFi stuff and NFTs and different, other ways of people getting involved in crypto that are more online friendly, more scalable, don't require as much logistical hassle. And so is everything going to come back around to these retail payments at the end of the day, or is crypto going to take over just because everybody's trading it online? It just sucks up all online commerce and then finally intrudes on the real world, or how's that going to go down, in your mind? So the ones I've got listed on the slide for the listeners, which I think you actually said you could talk about, it was BTC, and subsequently like Lightning Network, Dash, Bitcoin SV, Monero, Zcash, Doge, and BCH. I've used all of these coins except for Zcash. So that would be my, I'll put in my comments afterwards. So hit me with the rundown. What's the pros and cons here?
Yeah, so I've used all of these. I've bought something with most of them. it's not. I a couple of times in the case of Zcash and Monero, for example, those are ones where I acquired some because someone wanted to spend them and they couldn't, and so they gave them to me. They did spend them with me as a proxy. I used Dash and I got that. So let me just look at this list here. Let me. What we got to remember with this whole thing is the actual merchant adoption type deal, the actual utility for regular payments. It's such a there's a million different like facets to the whole thing. But basically, uh, any coin on that list, anything that's, I'll be perfectly honest, today, anything that's not Ethereum, you can send and receive pretty easily. Even BTC. BTC is like it has been horrendously expensive and slow in the past. Today, it's a little slow and expensive, but not atrociously. And with Lightning, of course, that's a different situation as well. Um, let me just start with like the least of the competitors on this list. So
Okay, all right. From the bottom, starting from the bottom.
starting from the bottom, now we're here. So I'm trying to think. I'd probably put Doge at the bottom here, and specifically because, first off, I think Doge has the capacity for on-chain scaling, all this other stuff, but because like the protocol level fees were set to like 1 Doge per transaction, and then the price pumped, and it was like 6 months of it being extremely expensive to use. It just doesn't make any sense, and the horrendously underdeveloped infrastructure around using it for anything other than like trading. It's just like, why would you? And it's, oh, Elon paid attention for 2 seconds and there was a pump. Like, I'm not really convinced. No one who's buying it wants to spend it. And I was watching we were talking about the transaction charts. That was very instructive because Dogecoin was doing like 30 to 40,000 transactions a day consistently. And then it became popular and those plummeted, which is hilarious. It's like, oh, everyone, now it's like actually being used way less than before people knew what it was, because it just became too expensive for these little micropayment kind of things it was being used for. A lot of people were probably using it for arbitrage, right? With Bitcoin, where they're like, I want to move Bitcoin to a different exchange, but Bitcoin's too slow and expensive. So I'm going to just swap it for swap it for Dogecoin. I'm going to move it to the other exchange. I get a confirmation very quickly, and then I can do it. And that all evaporated. So the thing about Dogecoin though is today, and I mean today and not tomorrow, like not for very much longer, there is a demand placed on retailers to accept it for payments. Like AMC theaters in the US had a lot of pressure. They're looking into accepting Sheep, which is going to be a hilarious nightmare of fees because it's an Ethereum token. And not only have to pay Ethereum fees, but a token is like a smart contract operation, and it costs even more to move than a regular piece of ETH. So that's something just no good. Next, I would probably, much of the chagrin of some of my friends, I'd probably put Zcash on there just for the moment, because I feel like I'm a fan of Zcash, and I wish I could use it more. I treat it like a science experiment at this time, because it's got rock solid tech, but almost no one seems to have interest in using it at all. Like they want to develop it, they want to talk about how cool it is, and then they want other chains to adopt its technology. I don't know, something like that. Like the places I can actually spend Zcash are almost nowhere, and also like the primary reason people would have used it was for its privacy technology, which most wallets did not even have until pretty recently. It was really not suitable. In fact, I remember in the early days of Zcash, like within the first year of it existing, first 6 months maybe, a friend of mine is a privacy advocate, actually purchased something at a retail shop with a shielded transaction, which was hilarious because he brought his laptop, opened up his command line wallet, and found a way of getting like the shielded address in there. And it took like several minutes to like compute the proofs to actually do it. And it was like that's dedication right there. But it still was just not any good. Now I think it's like useful, but who's actually using it? Like who wants to use it? I don't know. I don't think so. And then next I would go down over to Monero, which, to say something quite positive, has its special feature on by default all the time. All the transactions benefit. I mean, obviously there's so much more nuance that conversation. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but uh it works for what it's intended to whenever you send it. And to the credit of the community, as I'm sure the problem with Monero is like the transaction data you have at what I was just saying is not useful for transparent chains. For an oblique chain, it's like that much less instructive. You have no idea who's doing what, and the fees are actually pretty cheap right now. So who knows if people are actually using it? But I do see a lot of services that accept it. A lot of people are using it on, for various things. There is an actual demand to use it. It's like it's got a sort of a like a Bitcoin cashy zeitgeist behind it of like people are trying to spend it on things. And sometimes it's just to like buy children over the internet or something sketchy like that. But sometimes it's for legit things. Like Coin Cards is a gift card service, I believe, out of Canada, or I could be mistaken. But Monero is one of the highest performers on that site, and it's probably because it's the most the most useful way you can spend Monero out there. Like things like Bitrefill and other services don't accept it, and Purse doesn't accept it, and Gift doesn't accept it, eGifter, all those kinds of things don't accept it. So yeah, I don't think they do. So that's kind of where it is. Maybe so. BSV is a tricky one. It's really tricky because retrospectively, I'd probably put it. I mean, by the way, I'm done with the after this. I'm done with like the ranking in terms of like now it's a little bit more just like open discussion on pros and cons after. But so BSV, have you ever used Handcash?
Nope.
So a Handcash is a username and contact list based wallet that was developed by it was developed for Bitcoin Cash originally for a very brief period of time. And then the fork happened, and then they went with BSV. And so basically, you could get a $ handle, like instead of an @ symbol, just $ handle. And you could send and receive to that handle. And there you go. It's just like get rid of all those long cryptographic addresses. It's just that easy. And I believe every time it would generate it wasn't a static address like most of these naming systems. It was like it would use the XPub key, so you get a new address every time. You'd send to the exact same username, and you could like put that in your phone. So you just send it to Bob, send it to Karen, whatever. And then, I mean, that's something we really need in crypto today. And unfortunately, they went over to BSV, which everyone trying to spend stuff was on the Bitcoin Cash side. And then BSV, it just kind of died off a little bit, I believe. And the thing is, I believe Handcash, because I haven't used it in a while, I don't want to talk too much smack, whatever, because I really like the team, I really like the product. I believe they've gone in more of a KYC type direction where it's not as permissionless, and it's like you just buy like right in the wallet and things like that. But it's like the whole thing, you need to have your phone number to get an account or whatever. And it's not a direction I like, but that alone is like one of the best tools. And then they've had things like the money button and Relay X and a bunch of like really one-click pay buttons integrated that just they've had a lot of tools that are probably, I would say, best in class almost for crypto merchant adoption, but just not a lot of actual use case, and also a lot of like centralization and middlemen and so, like some stuff I didn't like. But like credit where credit's due, they did a lot of really good work on that kind of stuff. The problem is just BSV, and they don't care as much about not your keys, not your crypto. They don't care as much about other things. And also there's all that like funny business of, which extends to a certain extent into the Bitcoin Cash world, but it's much more reasonable there, of zero conf is everything. Now, the BSV side of it is a little bit more like it's instant it's perfectly instant right away. And it's like, well, there's a reason why transactions go into a block. You can't just say that. It's just like there's some funny business. The biggest asset, so AnyPay is, and if you could find a challenge what I'm saying, please tell me, because I'm looking for other solutions as well to talk about. AnyPay is the absolute best merchant point of sale app in the world for crypto, hands down. And it's, for example, it just produces one QR code, and you enter the amount, pay one QR code, no matter which currency you're paying with, you can scan the same code. And then by the time your thumb leaves the send button, it's already confirmed on the other end. It's just super seamless, amazing merchant experience. The people that run that are huge BSV maximalists. And while they support a few other coins, such as Bitcoin Cash, it's a little like they keep thinking everyone's going to be using BSV through this thing. And I just don't think it's going to go that way. But so that's a very long-winded thing on BSV. On a structural thing, like all these coins work on a structural level the exact same way, basically. Some have different fees, etc. And some have shorter block times, like Monero and Zcash and Dogecoin all have shorter block times than 10 minutes. And then we get into the, let me just look up the.
Hang on, yeah, let's get Jet. I think Jet's got something to say, maybe about the Hand Cash app. It seemed like maybe he's got some insight there. It sounds like the kind of thing he might have tried out.
Yeah, so I actually did the very first coin roll that Hand Cash ever did. So like I think we had something like 40 participants all around the world, and it was essentially like the whole lightning torch idea, but this happened before the lightning torch. BTCers suck it. So we yeah, using those handles were really basic and simple, and it was a great experience. But I think I don't know a lot of wallets that are using it now, but if we can just use like a mixture of cash accounts and reusable payment addresses or reusable stealth addresses or whatever that might be, then that'll effectively for the user give them the same experience. And they just need that clean, polished package that, I mean, really any app developer can slam together.
And can do, but haven't. I mean, there's still a lot of work that goes into it, but it's more about, you know, some implementation time needs to be spent rather than fundamental, you know, issues in sort of figuring it out. Yeah.
And BSV does have good funding. I got to give them that.
It's all that Craig Wright and Calvin Ayre stuff.
Yeah.
But then some other stuff too. The challenge with BSV is the tone taken and just like all the nonsense, the aggressive nonsense. Like they somehow became more I mean, not all of them. Some key figures in the BSV world became more toxic than a lot of BTC maximalists. And as the underdogs and all that, they ended up getting delisted from tons of exchanges, and a lot of service providers just won't touch it. It's just like, you know, it's like cancer to them. And so as a result, that has severely diminished the utility of BSV for payments to where they've had to build a lot of their own infrastructure and world and stuff from scratch. But like the rest of the crypto commons, so to speak, they're kind of not in it. And so if you're trying to live off of BSV, it's significantly more challenging just because of that. And I remember because, you know, my good friend, Kurt Wickert Jr., who's a big BSV guy, I was trying to like find solutions for them to set up businesses to take it and all this kind of stuff. I was trying to help them get their own like local BSV community using it every day, but just so many challenges, so many exchanges wouldn't support it for conversion, so many service providers, it just was a disaster. So if they'd only been a little bit nicer, they could just be another one of these things on there, but I guess they're not. So that is what it is.
Right. So now we've got the
Lightning.
the big three, I guess. Yeah. BTC,
Yes.
Lightning, Dash, and BCH.
Yes. So the BTC Lightning one is interesting. So basically, BTC as a payments system, in terms of adoption, has receded significantly and is kind of coming back a little bit now that like interest in people, oh, in El Salvador, blah, blah, blah. And then some people are more interested. As a internet money, BTC is kind of okay today because what are you going to pay in fees? 50 cents, $1. It's not ideal, but it works. And then, oh, you wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay, it went through, whatever. It kind of works and it is accepted a lot of places, like almost most places, but depends on the acceptance between BTC on chain, Dash, and Bitcoin Cash. It's to a certain extent comparable although in very different ways. Obviously, in pure numbers, BTC is probably number one, but some of those integrations aren't as quality. Like there's some that have been specifically developed for the other two that make it much more useful than just the breadth of that. But BTC in person for transactions is always going to be a little bit of a nightmare. And one of the reasons why AnyPay is able to do that really easy, fast merchant solution is because of the use of BIP70 invoices. And I mean, that's a big thing in the Bitcoin Cash community, and obviously BSV as well, and Dash as well. But because of that, I believe Bitcoin Core deprecated the feature now. And it's now like the Bitcoin, where like the Bitcoin wallets are starting to go away from being able to support that. So that means that if I send a transaction to a merchant and I sign it over to them and they're the ones that broadcast it, they have more control over it, or it's just the risk of a double spend in those long 10 minutes or more you have to wait for a confirmation is just significantly reduced. But like, and it's worse with BTC, of course, especially because they have replaced by fee. So for in-person merchant stuff, it's for those who want a novelty. But almost everyone in BTC who's trying to pay with it is using Lightning, and Lightning has some big backers and some big places you can use it, but it's not, as far as actual acceptance, it's nowhere near. I don't think it's anywhere near what a Bitcoin Cash or a Dash is today. You can use it at a few key services. You might conceivably be able to almost live off of some of it. The thing is, and the experience of using Lightning is inconsistent, I will say, because I've used Lightning as of this week. I ran a node for like 6 months or however long it was until I got tired of that. And if you're using it via a node, it's just like, that's hobbyist to the max. It's like, I don't know, it's like flying one of the Wright brothers airplanes or something. It's like, nah, it's a nightmare. But most people use these trust minimized mobile wallets, which are sort of like a light wallet on chain, but you need to trust a lot more. But you don't have to give up control over your funds, which is nice. But everything else you give up control over. Like they're free to charge whatever fees they want and things like that. And so because of that, if you're using that, it's like, so for example, this week, I had to pay something that for whatever reason, they didn't take Dash. And I was like, okay, well, if they're not going to take Dash, they're not going to take Bitcoin Cash either, usually in this kind of vein. But they did take Lightning. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll swap some Dash over there's an exchange called Fixed Float, which if you want to try out Lightning, it's a great idea because Fixed Float will swap directly into Lightning. So you can swap, say, some Bitcoin Cash into Lightning to a Lightning wallet. You don't have to go to BTC and then put it on chain. But so they didn't have a direct channel connection with Async, which is the largest node in the entire Lightning ecosystem. And so they charge like a $13, like, was it $13? I think it was something like that. They charge like an activation, no, $1.30. So I'm sorry for it could have been $13 different day, but like $1.30 or $1.70, like around a $2 like activation fee, like to open a new channel because they needed to do that. And so, but now it's all good on Lightning. When I paid the invoice, it went through very quick. It was great. 3-cent fee, right? Now that's on Lightning, right? Lightning is supposed to be super cheap. The thing is, and I'm going to have to do a video later explaining how it's not going to be cheap long term. Maybe it'll be cheaper than on chain, but it's still going to be. So then it's 3 cents, which is like 100 times more expensive than like Bitcoin Cash or BSV or Dash or BSV or any of these things right now, maybe. But anyway, that's kind of like the Lightning experience. The problem with Lightning is it's super inconsistent. If you get any Bitcoin Cash address and you scan, you send it, it's going to go. Same with the Dash address, except the difference is with Dash, there's only one address format. In Bitcoin Cash, it's mostly one address format today, which is fantastic because I hated those early days when it's like, no, the wrong one. Oh, I have to do this address converter thingy. But with Lightning, the chances of your transaction getting routed are never 100%. They're always dependent on a lot of factors. Like there's like 5 different, or 3, I think, different kinds of Lightning invoices. Like sometimes they can just give you an invoice without an amount. Some wallets support that, some don't. Then there's an LN URL thing, and then there's some other direct key send to like the public key. They're not all compatible depending on your wallet. So you roll in the dice if you can even try. And then once you try, it's like, well, do you have a direct route there? You don't always have a direct route. And then if you do you have a direct route in the amount that you're trying to send? Because every hop reduces that statistical thing. And so if you're trying to use Lightning, it's already frustrating trying to use cryptocurrency, even the best, right? As much as I'm like, oh, everyone live on crypto like me. It's like, yeah, but there is a challenge. It's not like even if it's smooth, it's like not every store that takes it is super well trained to do it. The infrastructures can sometimes be a little weird. Why make it worse with something that might fail half the time? It's like, imagine if you tapped your card, if like half the time it was like error or like didn't figure it out, like you wouldn't use it. You just carry cash everywhere. You wouldn't. And it's the same thing with Lightning right now. And like, I don't really see with that inconsistency it really taking off. I mean, it can over time, but I'm a little skeptical because of that. But so like all these people like, oh, you'll use Lightning today. It's like you can, but you're going to have these issues. And that's why pretty much no one lives on Lightning, is because it's a little clunky. Any other questions on that before we move on to the other ones?
Well, I just think it's interesting because, obviously the, tagline of this show is following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. So I do truly believe that it's going to, come out to be number one. And while there will still be a lot of cryptocurrencies, the fact that it, in my opinion, will be scalable and it will get, it has the monetary properties and the brand name and all that, and it will sort of get a critical mass network effect for real payments, like we were talking before, all the different things going on chain, but actually just two people who want to make a transaction. I think it's going to come out the best there. And I mean, I'm not an expert on the Lightning Network. I've been reading up on it more, but I sort of feel like I know enough to know that it's not going to make it. Like, for instance, the fact that it is already a 3-cent fee when it's supposedly so cheap and everything like that. So I don't know, maybe that's something to put in the conversation as well too there, about whether you can see that being likely or even a realistic scenario, or whether what sort of coins are kind of in the lead to like sum up all of this, right?
Yeah, I should add a couple of things that are about, so Lightning, if people want to spend Bitcoin, Lightning is going to succeed. I don't know if it depends on what succeed means, actually, but it will become relatively standardized, because if you want to use Bitcoin on chain is just not going to cut it long term at scale. And so people have to use something like this. And honestly, I think it's going to be a lot of providers like Strike that are, centralized custodial things that don't actually use Lightning for like a lot of things. They just, again, there's a lot of assumption because it's closed source. I don't really see what's going on, but I'm pretty sure if you send to another Strike user, you don't have your own mini like pruned Lightning node or whatever they call it, or Lightning node that's sending to your other users. I'm pretty sure they just say this much in our big pool is allocated to this customer now on their centralized ledger. That's not a Lightning thing. And then they use Lightning connected to a couple other big hubs that they have to transfer to exchange or back or whatever. And it's just that once you want to go to like peer-to-peer Lightning, then that's when it starts to get complicated, because then you might not have a connection to your node or whatever, and then your node might not, and it becomes a nightmare. But as far as this like mostly trusted ecosystem type thing could kind of develop, but one of the reasons I believe that if it actually uses Lightning, it's going to become more expensive is because if I'm a node and I want to relay transactions, like the Bitcoin.com wallet, whoever runs that node, the nodes that relay those transactions, the only cost is the cost of running the node. And if more and more people use it, you might have to like have a more robust node, but that's about it. There's not a lot of costs. The problem is, in order for anyone to receive $10 worth of Lightning funds, the provider has to allocate $10 just for that customer. So if you have a million users who only have $10 in receiving capacity, not even funds, receiving capacity, you need 10 million Bitcoin just sitting around just to service them. And it's not like no one will be able to do that, but that's costly. It's a lot of opportunity cost. And with DeFi and like, Thorchain and stuff like that, letting you actually get like return on your Bitcoin and stuff in a semi-trustless way, you're competing with that. And so you're going to have to drive up costs in order to feed that. So it's pretty much like 10 to 50 cents or something might be like Lightning transactions in the future, and the bigger the transaction in terms of like the value of it, the more expensive it'll be. Whereas like something like, say, on-chain anything, you want to have a bigger transaction if it has a high-ish fee, like with Ethereum, for example, because then it's worth it. But so things like Strike that allow you to get your paycheck directly into Lightning accessible funds are a huge boon, I think, for that ecosystem. And then there's a few companies such as Bitrefill, which I use Bitrefill constantly because they accept Dash. Unfortunately, no Bitcoin Cash, which is sad because the owner is a maxi, I believe.
Yeah, I've sent them a couple of emails being like, hey guys, I would use your service, but you don't take Bitcoin Cash. And they've just ignored me, and that's fine. I'll spend it somewhere else. So we're just not going to do a deal until they break down. And if they don't, well, tough. But I would be a customer. Tough luck, guys. Your ideology shooting you in the foot there.
They might be amenable to adding Bitcoin Cash in the future if there's like overwhelming evidence of demand. That's just a gut feeling of mine, but it is an uphill battle. But they do take Lightning, which means you can use Lightning on a lot of things. And if you use, let's say, the Phoenix wallet, which uses the async node, the largest node on the network, paying to the Bitrefill node, which is one of like the top 5 largest nodes on the network, there's going to be a connection. It's probably going to work. And so it's like, if you use like a couple of these 2 big providers, you can kind of do pretty well. So that's like the good part about Lightning. Now, I have seen Bitcoin Cash and Dash kind of grow up side by side in the ecosystem. Of course, Dash had a significant head start, but also a significant not head start because things like Purse and BitPay and all that just never cared. And it seems like in terms of adoption, it seems like they're almost mirrors, like almost the same, except there's like a couple of like differences that I think probably in some ways cancel each other out. Depends on where you are. Like, for example, like geographies. Like Dash is still the top or sometimes number 2 to Bitcoin. Most use cryptocurrency in Venezuela for payments at these large supermarkets. They, Crypto Buyer just released their stats and it shows, okay, well, that's what most people are using there. In Australia, I don't know anyone who's using Dash in Australia. I mean, I know some Dash fans from Australia, but they don't seem to be, using it very much. So that's probably, a big thing over there. Thailand, Japan was, Bitcoin Cash stronghold. Thailand for a while was like a Dash stronghold. And I don't know what's going on now because it's all locked down anyway. And like, it's hard to tell. Like there's different geographies where things are stronger. Like up here in New Hampshire, it's really hard to tell, but it's a majority of Dash transactions, I think, especially in the coast over here. Bitcoin Cash is very likely number 2, and then you have some Monero in here or there. So depending on those kinds of things, things I like the most about Bitcoin Cash so Purse is a good thing. I don't find myself using it very often just because I can get Amazon credit on Bitrefill and get like 1% off on that. And it's just a lot easier. Like I want to buy something now and I literally just go to Bitrefill, buy the Amazon code, I get it instantly and plug it in, I'm done. Whereas with Purse, there's a little bit more of a game, but you can get a big savings by using Purse. So Purse is a big thing that's standing out for Bitcoin Cash. Another thing is obviously like BitPay and Coinbase Commerce, which neither of those am I a big fan of. I'll say it's kind of like crap experience, but a giant number of merchants have integrated with just that. Like if any company is like, oh, we're going to start taking crypto payments, it's 99% chance it's going to be one of those 2 that they just do. And it's 99% chance no one's going to use it for the most part. But like right now, that's where it stands. And because of New York state regulators, Dash is like not on there because New York state regulators heard the name mentioned alongside all these evil, spooky darknet words, and they're like, oh, that's no good, and so it can't be. Coinbase and BitPay. Coinbase supports Dash, of course, but Coinbase Commerce and BitPay don't, because they want to just support everyone. They want a uniform experience. They don't want to like have like a every Chipotle say integrates with BitPay, and then for some reason their customers can't pay in Dash in New York. Like they don't want to do that. They just keep it off the whole thing. So those are the most frustrating things, right? For the Dash thing. But those are two big things that Bitcoin Cash has, and is kind of like a grandfathered into a lot of new integrations as a result. And so basically there's a few cases where because like I have a feeling that most people who are serious about living on crypto will probably have both Bitcoin Cash and Dash. And depending on where they are or personal preferences, they'll like 90% use one, and then they'll have some 10% other. And so that's kind of the position that I'm personally in, is I'm like 90% Dash and then 10% Bitcoin Cash when I need it for something. Like I want to save on purse, or this place only accepts this. Like there's some hot sauce vendor around me that uses Coinbase Commerce, and I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to swap some Dash over. So I make sure I have some Bitcoin Cash so I can actually buy their hot sauce with crypto. And there's the same thing. There's a pizza place not too far from here that just never got set up to take Dash, and I haven't talked to the owner, and I tried to, and then whatever. So I have to use Bitcoin Cash when I want my pizza at that specific place. So the things that make Dash so useful in my life in particular, BitRefill has obviously been a big one, because I mean, I would encourage anyone out there to use BitRefill, because you can, if you have a variety of coins, but like Litecoin and Dogecoin, but for some reason not Bitcoin Cash, I don't know why, but whatever, you can use it to practically live on crypto in a lot of the first world, depending on the country, because the ease of getting gift cards and stuff like that. And that's how I use to pay my phone bill is, I just top it up with BitRefill every month. And that one thing really helps out a lot. And if you have an account, which you don't need an account at all, it can be completely anonymous. Just put in an email to send their receipt to. But if you have an account, you can get some minor savings on that. But the game changer that came out not too long ago is this app called Dash Direct, which is very similar to BitRefill structurally, but the actual user experience is miles ahead, where it has a merchant map and a geolocation. It says which merchants around you can you spend this at. Oh, here's like a Panera Bread or something. I'll go in there, and you can save several percent, and you just enter the amount that your bill is, hit buy, it brings up your Dash wallet, you hit buy, and then you just get the barcode to scan. And it can, in some cases, be faster than using a card, or around the same thing. As long as you get good at it, it can be a really easy, smooth experience that basically, I think it's like 155,000 merchants in the US so far. And it's because of the map, and because it's all integrated in the wallet, and because of how fast it goes, it's basically like live on crypto with one app kind of thing. And it's an enviable user experience. And of course, that's why I'm really promoting it. And of course, I use it a lot. But the thing is, they're coming out with some, and I'm really hesitant to talk about things that don't exist yet, because you know how the world works, but it should be.
We're just talking about Kim.com now.
Yes.
We're going to be hyping something else.
All right. So now we're talking about Kim.Dash, right? Right? The Dash Kim.com situation. They're supposedly coming up with a virtual MasterCard implementation this month, maybe, but who knows if it's going to be next year, to where you can buy a prepaid, or you can buy a virtual like MasterCard that you can spend anywhere at any like card accepting merchant in the wallet for the exact amount you want instantly, and then like tap to pay. So in that case, let's just say you go to an independent coffee shop. They say, all right, the total is $26.59. And so you go $26.59, buy, and then hit the tap and pay button, click, and it works without losing custody of your funds, right? You only spend the Dash that you need for that exact purchase, and without KYC, which is the big one. I don't know. Like, I didn't believe it when they said they're going to do this. I'm like, how can you do like a card that's like, that you can use everywhere and not have limits? And then it was explained to me, but like it's still kind of almost in a little bit of disbelief. But that alone is just like, at that point, one app will literally let you live on crypto in the US only to start out with, but soon a lot of other places. And that's just something that like I think everyone should have some Dash just to be able to do that. Like if spend, on purse and the other things like that when you can, but everything, literally every other fiat transaction just turn into a Dash transaction and you could do that. That's a huge, 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 huge thing. And one of the one of the reasons why the CEO of the company that did this decided to look into Dash to build this with was because he was skeptical of confirmation for zero conf kind of things. Like, and Dash has every single transaction is finalized in under 2 seconds because this special thing called instant send that kind of just locks them in right away. And so that's probably going to make them hesitant to add other things that don't have a similar functionality. And that's something that I don't exactly know where Bitcoin Cash is headed on this exact issue. You probably know a lot more than me. The last I paid attention was some talk about like Avalanche for like a pre-consensus thing, but then the split happened, and then Amari went over and made eCash, and eCash is going in that direction. So I don't know if that is like hand cash, like one of those awesome things on Bitcoin Cash that just moved to another project.
I don't know. I think they're working on a couple of things a little bit. And I'm not super across the technical details. I probably should read up on them a bit more. But they have one coming that's going to be called zero confirmation escrows, which was the idea that you can basically put in a transaction where I'm spending to you $10, but I'm also putting on the line, another $10 or another $100, which any miner can come in and grab, which they're obviously incentivized to do. It would be a lot of money if they can prove that they have, look, you signed to double spend, right? So in that way, you would, I don't know how instant pay works on Dash, but it's kind of the similar idea, right? And you can obviously set that to whatever parameter you want. So you could make it, you're spending $10 and you're putting $1,000 on the line. And obviously, as long as you're not frauding, then you're completely fine to do that, right? But if you are trying to fraud, that's not going to work out for you very long,
Yeah, that sounds similar to, I mean, don't want to offend people by saying it like that. And it's similar to like the lightning game theory, where the one thing that keeps someone from taking everything in the channel is that like if it's a malicious close, then you get to keep all their money, kind of thing. But my gut feeling on this is either obviously at the protocol level, it becomes like you can't just say, oh, we'll make everything instant. It just doesn't work like that. Like you got to build something explicit in. I believe that the way things are going to move is a confirmation based on like either it'll be like BIP 70 type things where it'll be a little easier to do, but also it'll just be wait times based on amounts. So like if your purchase is like $5 and you use a Bitcoin Cash transaction with a BIP 70 invoice, it'll just be fine. You're fine. But if it's like $100, they might make you wait for a confirmation or something. I'm just predicting that's the way the world's going to work with security and confirmations. I also don't think it's going to go. I don't think it's going to be solved either way until you have a mass influx of people trying to use these coins. Like we're still in a world where BSV got 51% attacked to shit and back, and like the price kind of didn't like respond. Like, and everyone is just saying like, well, technically it's not a 51% attack, and but the fact that you can just say that and it's not like everyone realized your coin's going to zero tomorrow unless you fix that. And I guess there's a certain extent of like Bitcoin Cash that was the same way in terms of it's a small minority of the hash rate on the same algorithm as Bitcoin. It could be attacked at any moment, but then there was some like checkpoint things put in there. And there's also the thing that a lot of these bigger Chinese miners are sympathetic. And it's like, okay, that's a little bit more. But a lot of these like I call like fat around the edges of cryptos are just there until they get exploited. Like Solana, I'm not a huge Solana expert, but I do know everyone universally agrees that they're extremely centralized. Or not extremely, but like not like Ripple levels, obviously, but like pretty centralized, but no one cares. And at some point someone's going to care. At some point you're going to start seeing things get like, at some point a government's going to say like, look, Solana nodes in the US, which is like all of them or something, I don't know where they are, but you got to start filtering these transactions out. You got to start not hosting this thing, and when you got to start adding KYC to this, and at that point the decentralized like benefit is going to start to become more valuable. But that's kind of like the general merchant payment thing roundup. I have to say, it like across the board, first off, I believe everything on that list everyone should try, and everyone should try to buy something with everything a few times. Once is not going to cut it. Just the only way, an asshole like me talking to you is not going to teach you anything. Oh yeah, this guy says, okay, well do it, or you're not going to learn anything, right? And also this space, this particular space of spending crypto to buy goods and services in the physical world, not in online, is the absolute most underdeveloped sector of the crypto economy. And it shows based on just the garbage apps that are out there. Like, I mean, Bitcoin.com is one of the better wallets out there, right? It's still clunky and confusing for everyday commerce because I use it like that. And they're just, maybe I should just bring it up right away, right now, do like a live critique of the Bitcoin.com, which I still think is a good wall. That's not, I'm not hating on it. So first of all, when I hit send,
And it
then
makes you pick the asset. Like, I kind of
Yeah.
hate that. It should just be
Yeah.
BCH by default, and then maybe you can drop down to pick another one if you want another one, or you can set a preference, or like there's a lot of things like that you could do. Yeah.
You should just be able to send. And there is I like this thing up here, right? In the corner, and you know, 'cause I don't have any money in this right now, but there is the little like QR code button up here on the other side of where it says Bitcoin.com.
That's awesome.
And-
yeah. And you
and
can
that
do it
is
out of a
awesome.
picture. Yeah.
That
yeah,
is
yeah. So if
awesome,
somebody
but-
sends you a screenshot of the QR code, for people who
Yes.
don't know, if I'm trying to send money to somebody else, instead of messing around with the little, the addresses, but usually scanning the QR code is really quickly. But if we're doing it device to device rather than in person, I can just send like Joel a screenshot of
Mhm.
my QR code, and then they have a little feature that you click in it. You pick the photo on your phone, like from your camera gallery, and then it recognizes that QR code and it fills in the address for you. It's actually really nice.
Yes. Which, side note, one of the huge annoying pain points is moving money from your phone to your computer and back and forth. It's just such a pain, and no one's fixed it yet. But just this QR code scanner is nowhere near the send button. Why? What does this do? Like, the only reason I know what that is because there's a similar functionality when I open up the Dash wallet. Is the first thing when I hit the pin screen, there's a quick scan, quick receive, and quick scan. Oh, it does the same thing. And because I know that, I know what this button does. Otherwise, I have no clue. It's like, what is that? It needs to be right next to the send. Okay, Roger, are you listening? It needs to be right next to the send. But that's what I'm saying is these little things. And if just use AnyPay, like scan, just set up if you have a spare tablet, set up AnyPay on the tablet. If you have a spare phone, set it up. Or if you just borrow your girlfriend's phone or whatever and set it up, like play merchant for a second. That'll be this much. Ring it up, scan, try it with other crypto payment. Try with the coin payments in-person retail app. Try it with that one. Oh, try it with just try it and you'll see no one's going to use this stuff. Like, it's just not there yet. Like, no one, because the demand hasn't been there for the market to meet the demand with the supply of tools to support the consumer adoption. It's just not there yet. And all these kinds of things. Oh, just same thing with like the Lightning ecosystem. There's some good products and services in that ecosystem, but despite all that, it just, like, who's going to say just use Lightning? Like, try it. You're going to see, like, how are you going to get a normie to use this stuff? So that's basically the big thing. Like, there's no good point of sale systems, and the mobile apps for paying are very clunky at getting. It should just be, I open the app and then the next thing I do gets me to interact with the payment. Open the app, payment. Otherwise, or open up, finger ID, tap and pay. If you can't get that and it works super smoothly with the point of sale system, it's just not going to work. And I have a video of me paying for my croissant with Dash at something place that accepts any pay, and it's fast, about as fast as a card. It's also doable with Bitcoin Cash at that exact location. If that's a good example of exactly what it should look like. If it's any slower, any clunkier, any like hit the stopwatch. How long does it take from, all right, ready? Your phone is unlocked. How long does it take to pay? Go. Hit the stopwatch, see how long it takes, and see how many interactions you have to do. Like button, 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 button. Count them, and then count the distance your eyes/fingers have to go between things. Put it all into a chart, and then just get those down and down and down and down into where it's just like the smoothest you absolutely can make it. That's when you actually start to have something that real people will use, and not just they'll try it once and then that's over. So that was a little bit of a ramble on the whole issue, but that's kind of like, yeah, the commercial buy stuff in person where you're not at your computer, shoving a piece of pizza in your face while you're just clicking, whatever. Where it's like the time's on, there's someone behind you, like Karen's behind you, and she's getting mad because she wants to use your card. Like the pressure situations, like get those in, and then we can actually move forward with commerce.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing about this stuff, and it's true. The point of sale stuff, yeah, it's definitely not the slickest thing ever. Sort of, I haven't myself put a lot of time and effort and energy into this because I sort of feel like, yeah, like you're saying, the market demand isn't there. So actually, the most important thing is to get the zeitgeist fixed, get more and more people on board with the idea of crypto. Like, I haven't produced anything yet. I probably will at some point, but there already are a lot of research about how to download a wallet and how to send and blah, blah, blah. I don't have anything like that. My content is all about getting you the idea, wow, cryptocurrency. And then if people want to go and look into that stuff, they can. So it's more about giving them a reason or a motivation. But I agree that stuff is going to be kind of coming, and it's also going to come more once that critical tipping point gets hit. The kind of coins that are not planning out this stuff, not getting it set up, not getting integrated with wallet providers, not figuring out better software and whatever, all that, they'll just start getting roasted by the ones that are, and then that will probably flow on to the sort of market cap charts where people in real life are starting to use it and spend it, and suddenly saying like, oh, this is the best coin because there's 100 other ones listed here, but I can't spend any of them. Screw those, just like Shiba, Shiba, you can't spend that anywhere, and the fees are already high because it's an ERC20 token, and round and round you go, right? So I think, we're definitely going to see a sort of critical. It's actually really interesting that you say that about, okay, so Dash and BCH, it sounds like it's sort of kind of the two in the top spot, with Lightning kind of sliding in there at the side for people who are using it all the time. But some of those things that Dash is doing, like obviously BCH, we got to get our act together and start copying some of that stuff, it sounds like.
So I'll add a couple extra wrinkles to this. One is an additional thing on Dash, which is, it's one of those things I super hesitate to talk about because it doesn't exist yet. But years ago, this concept called evolution was sort of promised to the Dash world. It's taken forever, but it exists. It's on testnet. It's been on testnet for like a year. Hopefully we'll see a mainnet release in the next few weeks to couple months, but there is a username wallet for Dash. And the difference is the usernames are all on like a second layer thing on top of the Dash network. So the usernames are entirely decentralized. The contact lists are all decentralized. You friend people. So therefore, if like you lose your funds, you put it in your seed phrase in a completely different wallet. Not only do all your money come back, but all your contacts are there, and all the transaction histories between those usernames are all in there. And it's not like hand cash where you have to trust the company. And it just like they're all blockchain usernames, right? And that's going to be absolutely huge. and I don't really see much competition in the username space. I'm seeing it heat up a little bit, but it's a lot of just mapping to a centralized address, or a single address, I should say. And there's the actual connections between the usernames are nowhere on the actual network. But that's cool. But I'm really, trepidatious about hyping up something that everyone's been hyping up for years and gotten burned for it because it just hasn't come out yet. So the other thing is, this is just based on a slight hunch, but there might be another contender, be that being eCash. And I hate to say that because, everyone hates Amari, all that stuff. However,
no, it's go ahead, man. This is show for free and open debate,
Yes, and this is he's a lot of people have issues with him, and rightly so, but he's thought through things a lot more than people give him credit for. For one thing, he saw the Bitcoin Cash brand as he saw liability issues with the brand, but more importantly, I don't think he would have ever renamed Bitcoin Cash to eCash if he was still with Bitcoin Cash. Like, it's just that once you're Bitcoin, like a different, only Bitcoin Cash has any kind of residual branding benefit from Bitcoin other than BSV, but that's a whole different, ball of wax. But he basically just said, we have to be able to make, like, crypto doesn't work for payments today. We have to make the best money in the world and actually develop it to where it works. And he mentioned a few things like it has to be easy to use, it has to be instant, like all this kind of stuff. And it's funny because he said basically, and like I didn't prompt him at all, but he basically just said, we want to do, we're basically trying to do what Dash is doing, but our advantage is that because of the Dash governance system, they're a little bit more bureaucratic, they're slower to adapt to things. We're going to be like the move fast and break things version of Dash, and that's what's going to work for payments. And I mean, maybe, but the thing is, one thing that they did that was they did a redenomination thing, which I kind of was skeptical about at first, but I'm coming around on, because now I'm an eCash millionaire, by the way. Someone gave me one BCHA, and now it's like it's 1 million units of eCash, right? They just added a bunch of zeros.
It's a chain, like a split, like a stock split,
Yeah, they did that, and I mean, obviously, it adds a lot of like low-level retail speculators coming in, but it's just like the fractionality of any major crypto today that's like based on the 21 million Satoshi thingy. It's just super unworkable, like 0.00589, what, just not going to work. You need something more workable. What they decided to do is just stock split the whole coin. But like, I don't know, is a Bitcoin Cash using bits or something like that today? But like, you can do a different wallet display thing. It's kind of like herding cats. You got to get everyone together on that. But like, that's one thing that's important. Instant confirmations is something that's important. He's like, oh, we're going to use Avalanche for it, and Dash has its own masternode based thing. It's like, okay, that, and who knows what else. And it's funny because the Dash community is already talking about maybe doing something similar to what eCash did with the redenomination, just because of the sense, I guess, the amount of sense
they're falling. Yeah, well, they feel like they're behind. It's kind of interesting that Amori's trying to say like, we're going to be the new Dash, but then this is something also I love about crypto, just not to get on too much of a tangent.
Competition.
But yeah, exactly. Like, everybody's like, oh, but the government's going to do a CBDC. Are you kidding me? They're fucking finished. Like, there's no way in hell that any government is going to be like, let me just compete with like, BCH and Dash and eCash, like the community sort of organically learning from each other and like, spitting up all this different crap. Like, government can barely make like one app yet, let alone a whole ecosystem of stuff. Anyway, that's a different topic. Jet, I think you want to get in the discussion here. What are you thinking about?
I have a question. So I agree that zero confirmations should be scrutinized, and like getting things like double spend proofs and just more security around zero confirmations is fantastic. But I don't really understand the redenomination thing at all. To me, I don't really I don't give a shit where the zeros are in the number. Like, does the value get sent? And maybe I'm detached, right? Because I just Like I'm a
Yeah.
developer at this point. I look at like large amounts of data on the day to day. So a couple extra zeros isn't going to bug me. But I can't wrap my head around any real reason aside from like getting the hype of those low retail investors. Low isn't. I'm not phrasing this correctly, but you know.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let me hit the utility part of this. And this is, by the way, something that's I've been skeptical of up until like a month ago, like relatively recently, is when we're talking about the user experience thing, like every little bit of friction piles up and makes someone just so much less likely to even use the service at all. Like people just like won't go like, and that happens sometimes. It's like if I have to interact with too many human beings to do something, I'll just give up on that. It's just like, oh, like I want to do, I want to do this for a living. Oh, I have to talk to too many people. I'm doing something totally different with my life. It's just like so easy to just, and everyone is like that about some things. Just little, like if 5 questions in, they're done, right? Or let's say 2 questions in, but like 3 questions, like 1 question in, you're still good. So when we're trying to, right now, the redenomination is mostly, I guess, it's mostly like a speculative kind of a thing. It like helps, but here's the thing: it helps traders, because if someone wants to say, I'm gonna buy a small amount of this, they're trying to buy, and like people do in like integers, like, oh, I'm gonna buy 1 little ring light. Yay, I'm gonna buy 1 of these. I'm gonna get 2 phones. I'm gonna get 3. That's how they price things. And sometimes they're like, I have $100 to spend on cryptocurrency. Sometimes it's priced to that, but sometimes it's like, I want to buy 8 Doge. Okay, I got 8 Doge now. I got this, but it's like I got 0.00057771 Bitcoin. Like it's difficult. It's a bad user experience to have to go deep into decimals to account for what they have, which is why Bitcoiners have wisely, although they're not going to change anything, but they've started saying stacking sats, not stacking Bitcoin. Because like, oh, I bought 100,000 sats, I got like 500,000 sats, and like 5 million sats. It's like I got integers of things. It's as a technology, right? It reduces friction for the end user, in this case, in an investment. Now, when you're trying to spend it, right now, the unit of count is not crypto, and it won't be for a long time. Everyone's using their fiat currency. Oh, it's $50. I'm going to pay in Dash. Okay. And like, who cares what the Dash number says under that, as long as it goes through? At some point in the future, though, people will be earning crypto, people will be spending it, and there won't be fiat in there. And at some point, they're going to have to do like a unit. They're going to use it as a unit account, like 520 bits for this meal. Like it's rather than 0.00 whatever. It becomes a bad user experience. And just like with the phone, the friction, every additional step you have to do makes you less likely to do it. People might just like, they might go for complete shitcoin just because they can account it easier. Just because that's a user experience thing. That's like, everything's identical. This one has way too high of an inflation rate, but it has a good, accounting system. It's just easy to like 500 of these. This one is perfect, awesome, sound money. It's not going to be inflated, but there's just too many decimals, so they just won't use it. They'll just use this other crap. And I really think that it's going to come down to that. And like right now, it's like the retail traders, the little guy, and then it's going to be the retail consumers later. And that's kind of why that I think that will matter. But I'm not going to, if you disagree, I'm not going to give you a ton of pushback, because it's still kind of a new thing to my brain. I'm not like a huge advocate of it yet.
I don't disagree, but I don't really think there's any need to push for it. Like, I think when we get to the point where a Satoshi is too expensive for that to even really like be as its own unit of account, then we'll just slap those zeros on the end. Then, like, it's like raising the block size in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Joel had a episode that I was watching the other night where he was talking in great detail, actually, with another guy in Dash, I think called Ryan, right? Who was and they were talking
the
about
Friday podcast.
Yeah, they're talking in great detail about all the different aspects to this, and kind of part of the issue is not only deciding what is the optimal solution, but also how to get there, because every crypto, like that's the thing about decentralized systems,
Nothing
right?
is easy.
Yeah, nobody's in control, and nobody can just decree it, and nobody is in fiat. Nobody can just make it happen. So and that's kind of interesting there that you were talking about. Maury just sort of saying, well, we're going to be the faster Dash because there's no bureaucracy. Why is there no bureaucracy? Because he's basically unilaterally in charge. So that has its pros and cons. When you think about it. But
now on the
really,
other side of that, though, what if he has a wrong idea and like no one can disagree with him, and then he goes like, we are going to use for the hard money this way, and he goes that way, and it just ends up being a disaster, and then it could go too fast into a ditch. But on the other hand, like, you don't want to not, like, I do believe that Dash moves too slowly on a lot of things, and I think that can be a competitive disadvantage long term. It doesn't mean you need a dictator. It doesn't even mean you need to change your governance system. It does, however, mean you need to change the culture of being more proactively seeking newer technologies and newer ways of getting to the end goal. But just like when you're driving, you want to see where you are, but then you look left and you look right. Like, you want to see what are people paying, what are people spending, how are people spending their fiat, and try to replicate or improve on that experience with crypto. And then, who are the other people who are doing payments in crypto? What are they doing? Is it any good? What do we have to steal from them? What do we not want to do that they're doing? And otherwise, I think it will be probably like a three-way competition. There might be a lot of three-way competitions in crypto, because like, you can't have a two-way competition is just like the two-party system in the US, where it's just like, you don't really get what you want. But then with three, there might be better. So like, let's just say you got Ethereum, and then you got cheap made in China Ethereum, which is Binance Smart Chain, right? Which, it's cheap and it's shitty, but it's cheap, And then what else you got? Maybe like a Avalanche or a Solana or something. There might be like a three coming around. And
Smart BCH for the Bitcoin Cash podcast listeners.
Yes. Well, that's exactly it too. It could be, but then you have like the digital cash use case. And I mean, obviously, as far as like, let's just say you put Dash, Lightning, Bitcoin Cash, eCash. I wouldn't say like Nano seems to have stalled out. So let's just, whatever. But like, for the Litecoin, no one's using Litecoin to buy things. I'm fucking hate Litecoin anyway. But so let's say you have like those four that are serious about the use case. And I would even say Lightning semi-serious, because it's more like, oh, this is what we tell people so we can, like, half of the Bitcoin, most of the Bitcoin community doesn't care about Lightning really. They just use it as a talking point. And then there are Lightning digital cash people who are very different from the Bitcoin hodler maxi people. But anyway, it's probably going to be one of those four is going to not be a serious contender maybe. And then you have the three fighting it out, and then probably a couple win out, to be honest. Like, different flavors of things. Like, for example, people say, well, in the Safety Moose was saying the Bitcoin standard, all this garbage and stuff, but like, there was a silver standard at the same time, right? And when the Great Depression hit, all the gold standard countries were affected, but the silver standard countries were not affected to the same extent by that global collapse. And so, like, historically, there can be more than one. There's just like, you get what I'm saying. I'm done rambling on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll just sort of wrap this up and move on at a certain point. But I just think it's very interesting, and listeners of the show, I think, should take some time to reflect themselves on all of what you've said, and then also just throw that a bit into, maybe they're doing their own research, or they're listening to other episodes of this podcast, or, looking at some of the stuff that you put out. For instance, you need to crypto, everything is about trade-offs, right? Everything is about trade-offs, and every coin is trying to compete, in this little space here. Then we've got the little DeFi, little stream of things going on. Then this sort of store of value thing, which I think is complete garbage, because at the end of the day, people are going to store what they can use, but some coins are sort of rocketing off down that path. You have the governance aspects with different coins have different ways of doing things. You have different communities, like you were saying with the branding. Different coins have like pros and cons to how they've managed their branding. Or with Bitcoin SV, pissing off certain people. Community relations, like. Because in decentralization, it's all so messy and everything is on such a huge, it's chaotic and amazing. I absolutely love it, but it's very, very messy. So, the listeners can have a lot of fun thinking about all the different coins or investigating them. And it's up to each individual to determine what is the Goldilocks mix basically that makes the perfect coin. So, obviously, I think it's BCH, but everybody should make their own judgment. They should be very aware of those different things, because only once you know where the weakest points of your coin are can you sort of attack and fix them, or learn who is doing it better in that regard that you can kind of copy off. So anyway, I want to just wrap that up and move on. But that was super fascinating and insightful. Thanks. That was really good. So, meme of the week here. We've got this one comes from Nathan C. Ross. This one just made me laugh, which was it's a mock news article, and it's got a picture of these people standing on this lush green hill looking out over a valley, like explorers in the new world of optimism or whatever. And the title is "God Develops Ultra Realistic Metaverse Where People Can Talk, Learn, and Work with Other People, Calling It Universe." And exactly like we were talking about before, sometimes the humor just comes from just flipping things, flipping your expectations. And it's just so funny because personally, I'm a bit meh on the metaverse. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot there, and probably I'm not aware of a lot of it. So I'm sure that's also part of it. But on the other hand, it is just kind of like, especially with Facebook trying to move in on it, all this kind of stuff going on, it's sort of like, guys, are we really all just going to plug ourselves into our computers when there's still so much outside in the real world? I don't know, that's just it made me laugh. It was a genius take by whoever made this.
It is pretty funny. I in my youth, not for a long time, I was a gamer, and I hated The Sims. I never wanted to play The Sims because why do I just want to go to work on a computer? You get off work and then you go back into work for your little digital, why? Why? It's limitless. It's escapism. It's a limitless imagination and possibilities. Why would you go back to your freaking job when you could do anything? It's like, what do you want to do? I want to be in a house and mow the lawn. Why?
I want to talk to people.
Dragons.
Yeah.
Go slay dragons. Go blow things up. Go build a new universe in Minecraft or whatever. Do whatever you want. Just why do you choose to do that? But that being said, I am wrong. I am not.
People love that. Yeah.
I have an awesome life. People's lives are shit. Therefore, they will be in the metaverse all the time.
The old Ready Player One is coming, and it will be interesting if it starts out being a sort of proxy for the real world, but then we'll start adding in more sort of World of Warcraft type, slay the dragon quests or NFT costumes that are really hype and make you a metaverse celebrity. I'm sure all that stuff is coming. We'll wait to see what happens with it, but at least to date, I haven't really, even with all the lockdowns and being stuck inside and stuff, I still didn't get over the hump to being like, wow, I should really get involved in this. So
of course,
I don't know, maybe it's just not quite there for me yet. All right, community comment of the week. This one goes out to Jess Bitcoin OG, Jessica Martinez, who is a sort of recent Twitter account that has popped up. She posted, she said, for new people who have not heard of BCH before, I want to give a shout out to Bitcoin Cash Podcast and bitcoincashpodcast.com, along with whybitcoincash.com. These resources will really help you to understand what Bitcoin really is about and always has been about. So I want to say thanks to her because I did, appreciate getting this feedback. But I also want to highlight it for a separate reason, which is, according to her little Twitter bio, this is a 2011 Bitcoin adopter who has just kind of come out of the woodwork making this recent Twitter account. And I want to just, tie it into my little narrative or my little theory that I've had going, which is that we'll see more and more of the old Bitcoiners start to see, wait a second, Bitcoin Cash has still got the X factor, and come back and start adding a bit more oomph into the community. And it seems like this might be one example of that. And last week I was, talking about other indications that things were kind of trending in that direction with my interview with Luke Pryor as well. So you can see a couple of the early Bitcoiners maybe starting to sort of find their way back into BCH. And so, yeah, I thought that was great. And I think that's, Bitcoin Cash, it just needs a bit more. The engine needs to just click into gear a little bit, and sort of similar to where we were talking about the CoinFlex and the Bitcoin.com stuff starting to click together. I can just sort of see a few of these pieces. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this.
Definitely. One thing I've noticed, so new blood is what we need. And like having been in crypto for 8+ years, there's a lot of stuff that's happened, and some of the problems facing probably, like we're talking about BSV and all that annoying baggage, both Dash and Bitcoin Cash had insane amounts of red-headed stepchild of crypto baggage, just like all the Bcash, all the nonsense all the way, and then like Dash's wave came before a little bit, like all like the Monero people, which I'm kind of much more friendly with them today, but there was a lot of people that were like sending me death threats and stuff, a bunch of weird, like there was a lot of like craziness, and it's a scam, blah, 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 and like all this craziness back in the day, and it just like, oh, are we ever going to get over all this stuff? And now like all those people just moved on. Any new person does not care. Like, what is the block size debate? What are the block size wars? It's nothing. It doesn't exist. The average person, new person, comes into crypto. Oh, I heard about this stuff, I want to use it. Well, Bitcoin Cash is great for payments. Awesome. How does it work? Oh, I like it. Like, that's literally what they're going to do. And you're going to say, well, but it's not the real one. And this known scammer, Roger Ver, and all, like, they won't care. They just do not care. No one cares. And so I don't like, it is cool when you see some OGs move over. That's always like a little cherry on top, but that's not the meat of the thing. The meat of the thing is new blood, because new blood does not care about the other stuff. New blood is always going to be impressed when they find something cool. And on the other side, new blood is not going to care how old and established the project is necessarily. They're just going to care if it works for what they want to do. And if it sucks, if it's lagging behind, then they won't care about the project at all. But I think that new blood is the way to go. It's that childlike wonder of their first crypto transaction. It's funny because one of my friends who's working, he's trying his best to be living entirely unbanked off of crypto as well. He's like really on fire about this stuff. I was like talking to him like, well, what was your first crypto and when? Like, oh, I got it in 2017. My first crypto ever was BitConnect. I'm just like, oh God. But no, like he's still around and he's super excited about crypto. It's like, wow, okay. Like it doesn't matter what your entry point is. If you bought it, if you aped into Doge and then it just like didn't go where you wanted it to, but how do you get into crypto and just be like, yeah, that's enough for me, I'm going to go back to fiat? You can't. You're out of the matrix. Like new people. It's kind of like that old Microsoft thing. Developers. Like new people. Yeah, that's what really matters. Yeah.
Some thoughts here, Jet?
Yeah, this is kind of a callback, and I don't know. I'll just get into it. Joel, do you remember? I first met you in 2017 on Facebook, surprisingly enough. In, I think it was 2 groups. It might have just been one. Do you remember the Anarcrypt Facebook group?
Yeah, the one that my buddy Chris Webb runs.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, did we fight? Did I call you mean things?
Well, we didn't.
Put the screenshots up if you did, because this would be hilarious. A great reunion.
I don't think we ever got into it. I definitely did with Chris a few times, but
yeah, he's a little prickly. He's a great dude, but he's a little prickly.
But I was in part of the group that forked off into Anarcrypt V2, interestingly enough.
Oh, so you know Virgil?
Yeah, I kind
I'm
of.
sorry.
I don't
I'm
know
really
him.
sorry.
I watched him in that group. I saw that he ran
Mm-hmm.
the show essentially, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know anything about him beyond that. But that's where I met Mark DeMassel as well. Um,
Yeah, he's
and
a cool dude.
I feel like that group was very diverse and still, well, horribly like mean at some point. Like there was definitely some
Mm-hmm.
4chan energy in those groups.
Yeah.
Um, I felt as a newcomer into crypto at that point, like those were some
Mm-hmm.
of the most resourceful groups to learn about things, and I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
newcomers now have that. Even just to argue,
Yeah.
everything's so almost siloed off.
Well, definitely not on Facebook because no one uses Facebook. But
Right.
um, there's a lot of newcomers on crypto Twitter, and crypto Twitter is a very interesting spot. I have to say, Twitter is both the devil and God at the same time. Like Twitter, obviously, and I'm fully prepared to be off of Twitter in the next 5 years or so if it goes down the path I think it is now that Jack's leaving. Because Jack, despite everything, is probably a decent guy, and I don't know, he doesn't like censorship and stuff. But the way things are going now that he's gone is probably like really not good. But that being said, the cool thing about Twitter is you can have Mike, like, not because people fight over Facebook groups all the time because they fight over Reddit forums all the time. Are Bitcoin anyone, right? And then there's our BTC, which has nothing to do with BTC anymore, and it's just such a shit show just because Thamos and all this stuff and like the Bitcoin talk forums, like all that history, like all that like group. The good thing about Twitter is there's no groups; they're just organic. People gather organically around topics, which is it's cool because no one's fighting over that stuff. But also the cool thing about Twitter, and I don't know why I'm shilling Twitter on this thing, but is it's so easy to just cross over into a different stream. It's not boxed. Some of the best discussions in the world are said in private little groups that never get outside of that. But like, let's say a newbie joins crypto Twitter, joins like the thread on like the announcement of this podcast. I was listening to this podcast. New to crypto, completely new to crypto. What is this thing he's talking about with like known scammer and who's this Roger guy who's like a known scammer? Why isn't like what's this? And then you have this giant learning experience right on the thread. But the cool thing about that is you can just export that to just anything else. Like I retweet it, let's say, and some mutual friend who like follows me or something is like, oh, now they're exposed to that thing too. It's just like you can't keep a lid on it. And just because there's a bunch of annoying maxis on Twitter, like if you look at the president of El Salvador's Twitter feed, there's a lot of like sycophant maxis in his mentions, but there's also some spice. And I can read Spanish, and because of that, you can see some people saying like, "What are you doing with your people with this or that?" Or like he said, like there's no COVID mandates or there's no vaccine mandates or mask mandates or whatever. Come here, Bitcoin paradise. And people in Spanish, as mentioned, are saying that's absolutely not true. I have to wear a mask everywhere I go here. You're lying to the whole world. What the hell are you doing? And it just like could just get right in there. It's not like you have this little circle jerk group where all the information is just contained. So I do think like Twitter is kind of where the crypto world is moving to as far as like that experience, but I don't think that'll be the last. There will be a bunch of other things. How's noise.cash doing these days?
It's doing pretty good. Just before I get onto that, I just want to
Mhm.
make a bit of a comment on Twitter. So I
Yeah.
think Twitter's so interesting because I was never big on social media. I hated all that stuff. I quit Facebook in 2011. All of this stuff, like there's not really that much history of
Mhm.
me and a lot of these things. And with Twitter, the same too. But I only got involved in it because I was thinking, look, how am I going to promote this podcast or whatever? And so I've been learning about it over the last year, and it's such a unique kind of environment, like you're saying, because of the way that the dynamics between like Elon Musk, he's got 61 million followers or whatever, and he can just like shake the earth on Twitter. Like any one of his things gets liked and retweeted and spread out to so many people that he can really get in the mix a lot, but still not like dominate the discussion anyway. It's still only the people who are really sort of paying attention to his stuff, but he can do that. And then there's sort of like it goes down. So like people who are in the couple of million followers, they're like still pretty heavy hitters, and they can,
Mhm.
you know, get involved. And then you have people like when you're in the hundreds of thousands, you know, there's a few like I think the ones I follow, like a few of these BTC, you know, maxis, there's a couple of them, or like Nassim Taleb is another like one that sort of gets in the mix or whatever. And then it goes down. There's people in the tens of thousands, you know, and then people in the like, you know, sub 10,000 and sub 1,000 and 50 or whatever. And so, you know, you can, but you can, when you're a bigger like account, the bigger your account is, you can sort of shove people around a little bit, because if you reply to their reply, you know, people are going to be by default more on your side because you have more followers who like what you're already thinking about. But on the other hand, it works the other way too, where even if you're a small account, you can kind of get in the mix where if you can comment on somebody's big post, if you've got a good point, or they want to argue with you or whatever, and they argue back, well, then suddenly you're on this huge like distribution. You know, it's a very, very interesting dynamic. But yeah, noise.cash is actually doing pretty great. I mean, they've been experimenting with different things, but it's still like, I still use it fairly regularly. It could use a few tweaks and stuff to be, you know, I'm sure they're still working out the kinks and the, you know, but it is slowly just creeping up to be a little bit more Twitter like, and I do use it. It's got I thought it might be people would check it out, haha, you can make 10 cents, cool, and then stop using it. But it's developed its own little community and its own little echo chambers, basically its own little you know, conversations, and people comment on my things there that are, you know, it's pretty easy to just copy and paste across from Twitter onto Noise or back and forth. And then they do generate slightly different discussions and have slightly different groups of people following me and stuff. So I think that, you know, that might surprise a lot of people if that can build up some traction, if Twitter gets a bit too heavy-handed on the censorship and stuff, especially because the whole crypto integration part is so interesting. Like there's a few people on there that you just see, like, that's a sick comment. You just tap QR code and you just send them $3, and you're like, that is so awesome. I really love doing that. So yeah, it's coming along, I think.
Yeah. Now, are my favorite people on there? So I'm on Memo, and unfortunately, there's a couple people who hate my guts over there. I don't know if you know, like the legendary Twatter. I don't know if you know
I
that
don't
guy.
know all this stuff.
But
I don't know about
there's
the
a
memo.cash.
few.
I know
It's
that
like,
name.
yes, do you know that name? And then Uther is some other weird
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
and they're like the muted people, and so like every once in a while, I'll just look through my notifications, and it's just like muted comment, muted comment, muted comment, and I'm just like, what is this? And I like unmute one of them. You're a piece of shit, shill scammer. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, remute. You know, it's just there's some interesting character. They're just wondering if they'd filtered over to Noise as well.
Haven't had any problems with them
Oh.
so far, but I don't know. We'll see. Like, and that's another story as well, I think, that is going on in the world at large, probably, you know, outside the scope of this exact podcast, but the way that conversation is decentralizing as well too. Like, you know, it's for crypto specifically, it started on, you know, our Bitcoin and Bitcoin Talk, but then, you know, and then it got onto Twitter, and then now it's on noise.cash, and it's in a lot of Telegram groups, and I'm sure there's Discord groups, and there's people talking peer to peer, and there's all this stuff. So as more and more of the world conversation starts happening, and it's just fragmenting out a million different ways, and the ability for any coin to control their image or their, you know, reach or whatever, has just fragmented completely, which is both a good and a bad thing, you know, but ultimately that's the way it's going to work. So yeah, it's really, really interesting.
That's been a thing with crypto as a whole too. It used to be like the crypto top 10 list was just like, oh, these are the real projects. And now it's just like there's so many pieces, there's so much crypto that's like not being like, it just, so many crypto users just know a certain amount of things. It's not like anyone knows all the main things. And like, for example, if like I put all my stuff on Odyssey, which is on the library network, and they have like over 30 million monthly users. And so that's a lot.
Crazy. Yeah, that's
You look at
tons.
CoinMarketCap ranking, it's like 888th place or something like that. It's just like nowhere. It's like, okay, well, how many daily users does Solana have? Is it more than library? I don't even know. Probably not. Probably not at this point yet. It might be very soon, but and it's like this disparity, like people don't know that exists. People don't like new crypto people don't know the Bitcoin Cashes and the Dashes of the world and stuff. They just don't know. They don't know like, oh shit, I can use this stuff everywhere. Like I can spend this. Like they don't know it because they're all aping into Terra Luna right now. And they're like, oh, this is the thing over here, this stablecoin platform I can do all my DeFi stuff on. And it's just people are in completely different worlds. And it's it's almost like you're like a revolutionary under an oppressive regime or something, and you just like randomly run into another revolutionary group you didn't even know existed. You're like, oh hey, ooh, you too. Oh, what do you got? Oh, you got the rocket launchers. Oh, we've been looking for those. Like, it's a cool thing. I think it's cool that people. I think it's going to be cool when you start to unite these separate groups. I like that it's decentralizing, that no one has control over one big discussion. But I'm also looking forward to try to like crossing over here, see what's going on over here, and then getting some cross pollination going. Which is again why you get like a not exclusive BCH guy on your podcast now. And I was on Monero Talk, and I was like, everyone's talking to everyone, and that's good that not everyone's talking to everyone all the time, but enough people crossing over kind of helps. We're the day walkers. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have a community that is open and stuff to those ideas, because you just diversity makes you stronger in terms of the no coin is an island, really. And I guess where this all comes to a head, I think of classically is at an actual crypto meetup now, like these ones I went to in London a couple of months back. It's a mess when you show up there. It's so interesting, the conversations that come out of that, because you have people with all sorts of different experience levels, all sorts of different favorite coins, all sorts of different sort of discussions that they've been, involved in on all these different platforms and stuff. And what actually comes out of that mix is absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure it will be a rapidly evolving scene. I just put a lot more stock in. We've got 10 people in a park. What are they talking about? I think that's a much stronger indicator than what's getting retweeted on Twitter, just because it's real people that showed up and are there to contribute. So anyway, that's kind of interesting. All right, so last little segment for the show then. Message to the community. So obviously you're part of the Bitcoin Cash community. You have some Bitcoin Cash. You did say you've got the Dash majority, but just as much as anyone, you're definitely qualified to talk to the listeners of this show. Or obviously I try and make like the Bitcoin Cash community in general under the idea that you talk to a few people and then they talk to a few people, and the idea sort of gets out there if it's a good one. So yeah, what do you think the Bitcoin Cash community in specific needs to hear? What should they be thinking about? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? What are you loving? What are you hating? Anything. What do you think they need to hear?
So I love that it still has this feeling of the remnant, like the last faithful, like it's still like all the nonsense, that's all the forks, everything that's like washed through, and there's still people trucking along, right? And holding true to the original vision. And ideological purism is not something you can take to the market, but it needs to be. There's something about it as an underpinning behind everything you do, because otherwise you end up becoming like XRP or something. It just goes off the rails. And I definitely appreciate the recent, I would say, evolutionary ideas of let's not just wait for people to like wake up and realize that everyone should be using this. It's like no one's ever going to do that. Let's be honest. But like you have to evolve to meet consumer demand. And that's like the biggest thing is like, as I mentioned with the free market, like obviously you can see key utility in a censorship resistant means of payment backed by sound money. That's obviously, you're not going to want to give that up. And at the same time, you got to figure out how to satisfy consumers' actual demands, real consumers, like, and not conceptual consumers, not the mythical customer, like the real ones. Like, what do they actually want? Why are people buying all these coins? What do they want them for? What do they want to do with them? What would people really love to do? Like, what is it that Noise Cash does that Twitter doesn't, that people really want, for example, and like focus in on those kinds of things. And I don't know if this is still, I haven't really heard a lot, but like take it from like the BSV people, or they're not going to agree with you. That's what I'm saying. But look at the BFC community and realize no one cares what the real Bitcoin is. That doesn't exist. It's just it's a arbitrary thing that people come up with as like a value. And the BSV people have really focused hard on that, and I don't think that's really worked out for them super well. And I think the market's not really showing that it has, but whatever. People care about when you say is the real Bitcoin, find what that actually means and focus on that. Like what is the real Bitcoin? Like what does that entail? And focus on that rather than the religious rite, as it were, of just repeating is the real Bitcoin forever and ever. You want to make sure to get the underpinning of why do you care about that to begin with. And let's see what else. I don't know. I mean, keep innovating. I would say the biggest thing that communities in crypto, the old school ones, have done poorly is historically done poorly is find a way to realistically collaborate and coexist with other projects. The problem is you have people that are either doing like the Litecoin thing, which is like, hey, me too, please. And like, okay, well, no one cares. Like, you don't need to exist. Like, it's okay to be like, we're the best X and we're not taking second place. But that doesn't mean, so you could do that at the same time as you can cooperate with other things, which is like one of the biggest use cases for Bitcoin Cash today for me is Thorchain. It's on Thorchain. I'm providing liquidity with Bitcoin Cash on Thorchain today and earning rewards and stuff and fees on that. And that's great because Thorchain's a different project. But the good thing also is if you do that, for example, and you have people moving in and out of Bitcoin Cash, which means there have to be people who are fans of other coins that are using it, that increases the fees that liquidity providers on Thorchain earn, which means you can earn more with Bitcoin Cash which means much number go up if you buy Bitcoin Cash. It's like a virtuous cycle by not only using another platform, Thorchain, another chain, but also having people going in and out of Bitcoin Cash from other projects. So getting that all tied together, the crypto world has like a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know, there's some NFT platforms and stuff that might maybe do the NFT business better, but you might want to be like, well, what are you going to buy your NFTs with? Or what are you going to do with your NFT profits? Why don't you switch over from, let's arbitrarily pick Wax, like the Wax blockchain. If you can switch back and forth with Bitcoin Cash or do a co-promotion of some kind, you can have people like, you create a cool NFT, you make a whole bunch of Wax tokens off of that, and then you just flip to Bitcoin Cash to buy stuff off a purse or something. Flip it with Thorchain, and then the Thorchain people get paid, right? That's just an example. So just get that cross community cooperate only where it makes sense. Don't just pander to people because we like me too. No. So there you go.
Yeah, no, great thoughts. I mean, definitely, I would have some. I agree with a lot of that, but I would definitely, get into some of the details of some of that too. But maybe we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that another time because we've certainly put in the hours tonight already. So yeah, really, that does it then for the show. So. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, the FAQs, recommended resources, and so on and so forth are at bitcoincashpodcast.com. You can check that out. You can find the show on YouTube, not on Odyssey. I do mean to do that, but there's just only so much time in the day. But YouTube, you can follow me on
out when the time comes.
on Twitter.
The CEO lives in the next town over from me anyway. We're good.
All right.
So.
Yeah, sick. No, I've got some library tokens. I tried to set it up one time. I don't know. I'll talk to you about it. There's a lot of other stuff that happened. But yeah, thanks as always to the donators. I love you all. It's excellent. Thanks for supporting the show. Jet, do you have anyone you want to shout out? Not today. No shout out from you. Yep. You're next up. Yep. Shill yourself and anyone else you want to.
You can shill me. But the first thing I'll share, Eleanor Blanc. I don't know if she's a Bitcoin Cash community person. I really like her podcast, Humans of Crypto, because I listen to very few crypto podcasts. Oddly, I should probably listen to more, honestly, because so many of them, like there's just so much content out there. But I always learn something on her show. So hit her up. Crypto Canal is what it is. But Eleanor is great, and yeah, that's the person I'll shill.
Yeah, she's recommended on the YouTube channel for Bitcoin Cash podcast. She's one of the people in the BCH community, so you can find it there. And yeah, I do recommend it. It's definitely a different angle as well too, like compared to this show, which is more about sort of the content. Exactly like the name says, hers is based around people, and she gets a specific story, kind of narrative out of someone. It's not necessarily as much related to a specific coin or anything like that as well either, which is a very very different way of looking at it. And so where can people find you as well? I mean, I'll put some links in the show notes, but
yeah, so I am on Twitter at the Desert Links. Desert is in dry place, Links is in kitty cat, not Desert Linux. Don't go there. So I'm the Desert Links on Twitter, and my channel is called Digital Cash Network. On YouTube, Digital Cash Network. On Odyssey, Digital Cash Network. Instagram, TikTok, it's all digital_cash_network on those. But just look it up. It's going to be everywhere. I have a video series that's a little older, like as in I did it like a year and a half ago, but I'm probably going to do more. It's called How to Live on Crypto. If you just search those terms, how to live on crypto on any of these platforms, you'll find it. It is literally a how-to guide. Most of it is Dash heavy at this point, but I do want to do an updated one-off series of videos that's like how to live on Bitcoin Cash, how to live on Monero, how to live on Lightning, which might be a little more challenging, but whatever. I'll probably try to put it in. So if you just care about how to do it, and if you contact me on any of these platforms, just let me know how much you actually care about making it how to live on Bitcoin Cash. And if a lot of people reach out like, I really want that one, then I'll make that one first.
Yeah, well, I definitely want that because I'm working on a intro thing for my website that has like a 1 hour breakdown of crypto for people who just right from the start of what is Bitcoin, what is this whole money revolution, all that stuff. But I'm not going to be going into any of the practical details of that. So I'm going to be looking for some resources I can put at the bottom, like, and now you understand in theory, in practice, this is how it all kind of plays out. So yeah, we'll definitely have links to that at the bottom. So yeah, that does it. And my shout out goes to Kimchi_all day every day, who's in the Twitch chat right now, asking if we're into crypto mining. The answer is no, but it's super cool. But if you want to look into that, definitely do. But just be aware that you will need probably a couple $1 million and a huge warehouse to make any money. But if you should definitely find out about how it works and stuff, and maybe mine some small coins and give it a go. Crypto mining is definitely fascinating. And thanks also to Andley as well, who's also in the chat. So much love to the live viewers. Anyway, that will do it. You got a custom PC for your mining. Well, that might not quite cut it, but you'll find that out for yourself. Look into it.
Find something to GPU mine. Then you might be able to get somewhere.
GPU mining. Look that up. All right, cool. Well, that will do it for the show then. Thanks for listening, and till next time.
While the rich banks rob ya,
Rub the blind man.
future dollars